there, goblins. Welcome to another episode of Goblin Salvage Rates.
What he said.
My name's Robert,
I'm Eric.
and today we're talking about Lost Omens, Divine Mysteries.
Are you going to use that voice through the entire episode?
Possibly.
I think you should.
Excellent.
It's super inappropriate times, too. You should use it at work.
Oh, that would be great, dude.
Yeah.
My coworkers already think I'm a fucking weirdo, and I'm their boss. So, like Robert
Good
over
quality
here.
to have.
Exactly. So, yeah, we're talking about Lost Omens, Divine Mysteries. At first, I was like, oh, this is just a cash grab re-release of...
It was always going to be more, though, because we knew War of the Immortals was coming out
Exactly.
like a year ahead of time.
Exactly.
And we knew that like a lot of God shit was going to go down.
But I wasn't
So we need the update.
expecting the kind of mechanical fucking shit they stuffed into this book.
I wasn't expecting the fact that it's twice as big as Gods and Magic, and it's not one of the Gazetteer books like Mongi Expanse.
It should have been a Gazetteer book, honestly. Like the Mwangi Expanse. I mean, Mwangi Expanse is chonky.
Yeah.
And like
Like
so
Impossible Lands.
Impossible Lands. Exactly.
Like that series of books, physical places you can go.
Exactly.
But they went and did it for Gods and Magic.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy. Wait, is it up here? Let's talk about what we played, which was
Fuck all.
Fuck all. Thanks, Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
You were great.
Hey, I went to board game country, which means I went to my room with all the board games in it.
Well,
That's what I did for my Thanksgiving. Yeah, I did my food coma with cardboard and dice.
I'm just gonna hold this book, pretending that it's the book we're talking about. So, Lost Omens, the first Lost Omens book, no, the second ever Lost Omens book, Gods and Magic, has 135 pages. Third?
Yeah.
What was the second?
The second one was the character guide. The first one was the world guide. Third one was
Really?
that.
Oh,
Absolutely,
okay.
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
I believe you.
That's when the Hobgoblin showed up. Was the second book.
Oh, right. So this is 135 pages,
Mhm.
which means that the new book is a little less than triple the size
That's fucking bonkers.
of the original.
And there's, I'm not gonna be.
Nope. Say it. This is our first
Is this the
reaction.
time?
This is our first reaction.
There's so much of this fucking book that didn't need to be in it. It could have been 250 pages. And yeah.
Hot takes coming from Eric.
Okay.
Well,
Look,
this is a first reaction video, so let us react. This is our impression. Tell me your impression.
I'm the lore guy.
We're jumping right into it.
I'm the writerly lore guy. I like stories. I pay for stories. That's where I get my joy. This point of view character, this bird that's running around doing all the interviewing and gathering all the intel about the gods to feed to their master, is a sycophant. Just balls to the wall sycophancy. And that is not a trait you can have in your point of view character and run for 300 fucking pages.
For
it's
all
obnoxious.
of us uneducated idiots.
The yes man.
Okay. Got
Yeah.
it. I'm like, I have no idea what that word means.
I'm doing this great work here.
Yeah.
And, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. And you're going to find that I'm going to do really good work, the best work, great work. And maybe you'll give me a pay bump, a pay increase. Maybe I can come to court and we can just hang out all day and braid each other's hair. And, I'll get to stay in the boneyard with you all the time. And we'll get bunk beds. And there'll be so much room for activities for Asthma.
So what you're saying is the bird is
This bird is obnoxiously yes man.
It has a brown beak.
A very brown, has a brown neck. That's how far up for Asthma's ass this bird has gone. It's obnoxious, and it made it really difficult for me to get through like the 5 or 10 pages of, and then I noticed this. And when I went through my study of, adjective, finally a noun.
Right.
This is what I discovered, and I found that there's a God that can do things, but not as good as you, Pharasma. I know you do things better.
Okay, to be
It
fair,
got really fucking old, really fucking
fair,
quick.
she is the most powerful god.
Yeah, but I don't need 300 pages of butt licking. I just don't. I don't.
That's fair.
It's funny in small doses when it's a side character, because it's like, okay, I get it. Good, we move on. But a point of view character. I read a fraction of the lore out of this book because I had to stay away from that. I read more crunch in this fucking book than I did lore.
What?
That's how little I like this character.
Who's going to talk about the lore, Eric?
I read enough to talk about it.
Okay.
I didn't want to disappoint.
Good,
That's my hot take, and I'm not trying to be an asshole about this. I was just surprised because this character, this point of view character, showed up on Paizo blogs, in the lead up to the War of Immortals. And, those are bite-sized blogs. And in bite-sized bits of fiction, the happy, peppy, this is great. I'm living the dream, you guys. I'm doing research. And I'm going to go out and tell you about my research, and I'm really excited. That's fine, but not for 320 pages.
Got it. Okay, got
it. So it made it difficult for me to absorb the lore.
Totally.
I skipped so much that I know I missed out on a lot of good quality stuff as a result. So I ended up just fucking skimming to halfway through some of these massively lore and narrative heavy chapters, especially the introductory stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that. The book opens up with, quote me on this, 35 pages of introductory paragraphs. Like this is
8 pages.
No. It's
Introduction is page 4 through 8, according to my table of
from
contents.
the beginning of from when the book opens all the way up to the first entry of the first god.
Oh, the first god. So you're going way down there. Okay.
Like 35 pages of
introduction in chapter 1. You're all calling the intro, and then the gods show up.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Because that's like introducing the
I'll
world.
go with that. Sure.
It's
Sure.
introducing how gods work.
Secrets of the
and
Divine is
stuff
what
like
they
that.
call that
Right.
chapter 1, and that's you're
So
right.
what do you think? What would you say it covers? Because I kind of like
The introduction?
I hard skimmed it. No, the Secrets of the Divine. Because I hard skimmed it because I'm like none of this is pertinent to like a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Before we do that, because I'm that guy on Goblin Salvage Rights, I
Okay.
do want to talk about the actual introduction a little bit.
All right. Yeah.
Because this is almost a 350-page book, and I know a lot of people don't want to go through 350 pages of lore to get the stuff they want. So one of the really cool things
Give the
that they
people
did,
what they want, Eric.
right? What they want is fucking splash pages of art that cover 2 pages.
Okay.
This
book
there's
is
so much desktop art.
Spades. It's
Yeah.
If you want, okay, hear me out now. Right now,
I'm listening. What do you got?
I would get this. I would buy this PDF solely to have access
Yep.
to the art because if as a player, because there are so many great new and old pictures of iconic and brand new characters in this that I could just rip out. They're dripping with character,
Flavor.
Flavor. They're dripping with flavor.
Zhuzh.
They're dripping with zhuzh.
Zhuzh.
And I could immediately, I see them and I immediately know what kind of class I'm going to be making for them.
Yeah, the artists are just stellar these days. They've
fucking
always been
kicking
good for
ass.
this, but yeah.
And you know what's great? Iomini doesn't look like Hitler this time. So that's fucking rad.
Iomini always look like Joan of Arc to me, the
that's
Mila
what-
Jovovich Joan of
she-
Arc.
That's what she's. But like, look
Yeah,
at-
but like totally like on the nose Joan of Arc.
but like the one I just have I have a huge issue with the gods and magic.
I need to see this Hitler art. I'd never made that connection
I
before,
swear
but
to
I'm
God,
sure it's
now
there.
that this book is out, I'm gonna just draw in the stats.
They
in the
repurposed a
book.
lot of the same art too. You noticed?
Oh yeah. But like in a good way. There's some homages to like. Look at this. Look at this.
No, that's Joan of Arc through and through. I didn't
Okay.
get.
All right.
I didn't get the
Anyway,
A, man.
Anyway.
So on page 8 of this book, if you only read page 8 and nothing else in the book, you still come away with useful stuff. So all this is, and then we can move on, is a 5-chapter synopsis for those of you who feel overwhelmed by 320 pages of lore.
I did.
So chapter 1, Secrets of the Divine, which you're calling an extension of the introduction. I'm going to read this paragraph, and this is literally what it says. The true nature of divine power and the gods may not ever be completely understandable, but this chapter presents a number of essays that attempt to discern the workings of deities and their capacity as divine beings. The essays are written by this book's narrator, Fuck Off Ivali, a young Nosore in training to become the Aid of Pharasma. This tells you what to expect for like 50 pages of the chapter, rather than what am I doing? Just going directly into it. What am I reading? Does this go anywhere? This is obnoxious, or I love it. You know, whatever your taste may vary. But are you going to get anything out of that chapter?
yeah.
You don't know what's in chapter 1 because it's called Secrets of the Divine. What does that even fucking mean? But these synopses on page 8, you know, chapter 2, Gods of the Inner Sea. Chapter 3, Other Gods. Oh, we have Gods of the Inner Sea and other gods. I know where to go now because according to this synopsis, this chapter dives into the 20 prominent deities whose faiths are most common throughout the Inner Sea regions. Each entry details a god's general information, their worshippers, and their places of worship and more. That's it. So check out page 8 and that will lower the amount of overhead that just kind of weighs on you if you're anything like me. I was kind of dreading going into this book when I saw the page count and how much wankery there was in the story that I'm supposed to love.
Yeah, because no sane person buys one of these books and reads the whole thing from tip to tail.
And
right?
I know there's people out there that do that,
And they're
but
like,
you did get the caveat.
Robert, I'm not insane. Please,
Well, actually,
tell me in the comments that you're insane and that
Right.
you read these
Shit on
books from tip to tail. You can only shit on me legally if you join the Patreon. Then
shit
you
on
can
Robert illegally.
jump into the Discord and shit on me all day long.
So yeah, introduction was actually useful in this book.
Good.
I haven't found introductions useful in all of the books.
Damn.
So I hope they do this going forward, especially for the chunky boys.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
The
you were asking
chunky
questions
boys.
about the secrets of the divine, right?
Yeah,
That
tell me
chapter?
about this because okay. You found the writing style distasteful to your tastes.
Yeah, purple to say the
I
least.
got like 2 paragraphs in, and I'm like, oh, this is boring.
You checked out, didn't you?
I was like,
I knew you
skipping
did.
this.
And
Skipping
you're not
this.
wrong.
Yeah. Like I jumped around to the parts that like I thought would really matter.
Sure.
And
Or meaningful to you.
and they were confusing. So I just kept going to the parts with
I think
mechanics.
it was deliberately confusing. A lot of this felt like a freshman philosophy student at college extolling about the mysteries of the universe. And sure, they've got ideas and maybe they've read some books and they're connecting ideas and maybe this and maybe that. And oh, hey, I found this other book over here that had some interesting ideas that supports this theory I have. It's basically philosophical wankery, which is fine. It's fun, especially if you're high or if...
I've had one too many cocktails.
Yeah. So it just went on for a really long time.
Yeah, 35 pages
Yeah.
of this is how the world works from the perspective of this. And to be clear, this
The
is
psychopomp.
a psychopomp of Pharasma,
Right.
right?
An important character in the canon.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me is that the perspective was this is a non-human creature. A non-material plane, someone who can literally traverse planes
Right.
and go through the back roads of the multiverse, right? So they have their perspective, assumedly, is one of multiversal reality.
Yeah. And they've been documenting shit since the death of Aradin at the very least. Because Nosroi, I can't remember how to pronounce that bird's name. But they're like the lesser psychopomp, I think, on the bottom of the scale of psychopomps.
Yeah, they're like the imp. That's the imp you get.
The quasit psychopomp.
Yeah, they're quasit of psychopomps.
That's
because
fabulous.
psychopomps is like a family.
I'm using that forever.
Well, every one of these things has the quasit equivalent, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you asked a question. So what is in chapter 1? And granted, there's a lot of quality writing in here. I just skimmed over so much of it just because I have hangups. So this is all me and my hangups. We have in this Witness to the Divine chapter, it talks about what it means to be a devout worshiper in Galarian specifically. Some settings are super low magic where you never see gods ever. So do they really exist? Well, clerics are getting their power from somewhere. So yes, and that's fine. This setting is so gonzo, bonkers, off-the-wall high magic where gods actually walk down the street, shake your hand, and you can have a bagel by the corner store. And
what would be a good example of like a low magic, low god setting? I have one that comes to my mind, and that's like...
I'm just going to go with Ravenloft because it's easy. It's,
The Lord, aren't the lords like gods, though? Or they
No, the Dark Lords are basically people or creatures who are having things done to them that manifest in powers. So you'll have like a vampire who can seal the borders to their domain. That seems like a godlike power thing to do, but it's something the dark powers of Ravenloft have instilled in that vampire. So they can do it, but it's not like, they did the test to the Starstone and now they have their own powers they can
their own god
to bring out. Yeah. So whatever powers they have are an extension of the world that they live in because they're Dark Lords.
I think of like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's a good example.
Yeah, because like there are
a salt of the earth
gods
fantasy.
and some magic.
We don't know if there's gods in Game of Thrones. We just don't know.
Exactly. But there's some magical things that happen.
Absolutely,
Very
unequivocally.
rarely, yeah.
I mean, we had a Shadow Cooch scene in the second book, and it was fucking fabulous. And we never got back to it after like 5 books and several thousand pages.
And
later.
like the god of is it the god of luck or the god of assassins? Like blesses one of the people, maybe.
No, not even that.
You know what I mean?
I mean, that's one of the cool things I like about low fantasy settings.
Me too.
Is the people who live there and are eating and breathing and fucking and getting married and going to school and raising children and harvesting their wheat fields. They're just trying to live their life, man. They're not tapping into universal entities for cantrips and shit like that.
It's a lot more relatable.
It is.
Yeah.
And that also means the stakes get really high really fast and don't get cartoony.
Yeah.
When we get to high fantasy, it gets cartoony for me and my taste. And that's hard for me to have the sense of higher stakes. So we kind of went on a bunny trail there. What does it mean to be a devout worshiper in Golarion, specifically a high magic setting where a god explodes and rains down his power, and now we're doing mythic powers and mythic adventures? This is a very specific kind of fantasy campaign to have a character of faith in. So how does that manifest? This chapter goes into that. The nature of miracles. What does a miracle look like? What qualifies as a miracle in a gonzo high fantasy setting like Golarion? So it goes into that for many paragraphs. Priests, clerics, and champions, same thing. How do they do their thing? Cool art for the Desnan Sailor.
Oh yeah, Desnan Sailor's badass.
On page 15. It goes into other channels of the divine. You can access divine and, without being a cleric. You can do it by being an oracle. You can even do it by being, I don't know, just a lottery scratching shithead on the street corner.
A blessed one.
Yeah. I mean, there's ways you can access the divine. And what does that mean in this setting? And I really appreciate that this book kind of went into that detail, even though it was hard for me to absorb. On lesser fonts, we, as Pathfinder players, we like to build characters that do the best thing and have the maximum efficacy. What does it mean to have, like, the total B squad, lesser font, divine-powered creature or person? Yeah, the nature of divine power in this setting. Apotheosis, what does it mean to ascend to a god? Because we have 3 examples of ascended deities. And it just talks about fanning the divine flames. There's a lot about the power of belief, kind of like in the Dungeons & Dragons Planescape sense. That setting was really smart about how they went into this kind of territory that we're finally getting into. We didn't go into all this stuff when Gods of Magic came out. Gods of Magic was too small. It didn't have the real...
Tiny book.
Yeah, right? It turns sideways and it disappears on the show.
Yeah.
I think it might even be the thinnest of all the books in there besides the World Guide. Yeah, I'm just looking at the size of the others. Maybe Grand Bazaar is skinnier.
They're all pretty tiny, honestly.
They are, yeah. But because we got to double the size, we got to slow down and take our time and sort of just like savor the topics, which was really smartly done. I just wish they didn't use that stupid bird to do it.
But then there's the goddamn bird.
The goddamn bird.
The goddamn bird.
What does it mean to kill a deity? In fact, my favorite quote in the entire book happens to come out of this section. And it's when Ivali says, the most impactful thing a god can do is to die.
Yeah, that was a pretty good line.
That was such a fucking good line, man. That had me by the throat because we just had a god death, the first in 100 years since Saradin died. Yeah. And it's a big deal.
And like on the time scale of everything, 100 years,
it's nothing.
Honestly, we just had like
blink.
Bam, bam. Like 2 gods just got offed one after another.
Right. And like orc gods have died. A lot of gods got the axe recently. So we probably lost a half a dozen to a dozen deities in the span of 100 years or so. Golarion doesn't fuck around when it comes to death, either on the small scale or the large scale.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate that because, again, it helps me have a sense of stakes. You know, if I'm going to have a relationship with my character and the deity they worship, and all of a sudden they fucking die.
We need a GSR shirt that just has you grilling steaks. Eric's just me and my steaks.
That's right.
You know what I mean? That'd be sick.
Yeah. And when they talk about deities in this book, they're not just talking about like the core 20 and Bahamut, who goes by Apsu in this setting.
Yeah.
We're talking demon lords.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a bitchin' piece of art on page 27 of Deskari, who is the demon lord of locusts, who was the BBEG in Wrath of the Righteous. And it's this really cool image of Discari sort of like backwards as though rising up into the sky, and this black mist is pouring out of their chest, suspiciously similar to the one that came out of Gorham when he got the axe recently.
Right.
So there's like cool little, what do you call them? Like little Easter eggs.
Yeah, Easter eggs.
Where I feel like I really want to read too much into some of this art. But who knows?
Art, I think the art direction was really telling. There's probably a bunch of Easter eggs that we even missed.
Yeah.
That we don't even realize.
Oh, absolutely. I will be going back and rereading the lore bits. It's just going to take me a long time to do it because I'll have to do it in small doses.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's Easter eggs aplenty everywhere in here. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that specific section. If you want to know how your character at the table interacts with their faith and what it means to do that in a high fantasy setting, this is a very valuable chapter. If you don't give a shit, skip it.
Really useful is how they described gods as not being powered. Like, they kind of lay the ground rules for how gods work in Golarion here.
Okay.
And one of the things I really enjoyed is that the fact that they were like, gods don't need worshipers to survive.
Some do, some don't. They actually went into examples of some gods that just fucking disappeared when their worshippers disappeared as well.
And then they had a whole paragraph dedicated to like, sometimes a god not having any followers means they're freer to do more interesting things.
It's cool. So they kind of showed us a little bit about how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
But it was all couched in terms of sometimes, maybe once or twice, certainly not always, and maybe not at all.
It felt like
there was
they
a lot of
didn't
that kind of
wanna
language.
paint themselves into a corner where they say one thing and then they do another, and then the fans are like, "Bro, you just broke my head."
You
canon."
said.
Yeah, exactly.
You said.
We had canon here and you broke it.
Yeah.
So I understand that they're trying to paint a very vague brush, if you will, of very vague strokes, so that they can get away with doing fun stuff in the future and not need to worry about the rammies.
Maybe. I don't want to use the word vague on this one because I think it was a smart decision to be specific in several different conflicting instances, because what they were doing, and you could see it in every single chapter, was they wanted to give the GM and players the most options for their game. So you can have, like, in your own game, every single deity linked to the population, the census, the number of people on the planet that worship them. Or they can be completely separate, severed from the needs of the prayers of their people. So this book was like, we have examples of both.
Right.
And this third instance over here, and this fourth one over here. And over here, there's a god that doesn't do any of that. He does this thing over here. So they're constantly, smartly so, saying, you guys have options. We're all about options here at Paizo. And we want to give you as many of the options as you want.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it, I think. Because like there's kind of like two ways a TTRPG company can go about writing their home lore. They can give you a very well-defined canon that you can put your stories in, and you'll feel supported by that very extensive, detailed canon. Or they can create a canon with a lot of exceptions to rules that allow you, the DM, to have more play space. Yeah. And I think that...
And this is a kitchen sink setting too, so you need those options.
Exactly. So in the instance, the kind of product that they're selling kind of necessitates this sort of yes and but kind of ruling.
And the fact that they did that through an unreliable narrator, through a first-person perspective, going out and investigating and interviewing deities and powers, that's the
way to do it.
One of my favorite parts in here is she. The character's a she, right?
No fucking clue.
I keep using they because I don't actually know.
I have no idea.
But my favorite part is like, no, I didn't interview that person. That person's really scary. I got my information about that demon lord this other way.
Right.
And I hope it's right. Pharasma, please don't hurt me if it's wrong.
Please don't hurt me if it's wrong. Yeah, absolutely.
So I love this art. It's crazy. Chapter 2, The Inner Sea Gods. How do you like that library spread with Aurori Abadar and your boy, the black and white Magus, just fucking up the library?
He's just looking at books, bro.
And Aurori's like doing this.
Get out. You got to get out.
Yeah. Well, I think he's looking at Abadar going, he's at it again. Can you do something about that? That's the impression I got. But
to me,
it's a
it looks
beautiful
like
2-page spread.
Aurori is for whatever reason, the fucking bookkeeper, he's the librarian that for this week, you know, he's on librarian duty. And Abadar's just like, oh, you caught me looking at books I'm not supposed to. And then we go.
I didn't. We
flip to the next page, and there's just like Nethies full fucking mainlining 12 books at the same time.
And that's funny too, because Abadar is sort of like our deity of civilization.
Organized shit. Yeah.
Right. And he's reading one book. And then you flip over to the next page and like our boy is like floating through the air and he's got 12 books around him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's like amateur.
Fucking amateur hour.
The god of Banks is an amateur.
And then we flip to another image of Abadar and Erastile Dysfunction looking at a page, some
it looks like blueprints to build like a hunting lodge or something.
With a lodge in the background called Godly Influence. The art
that was cool. It's a small moment.
It's so evocative in my mind.
It really is.
Can we talk about alphabetical second god on the list? My girl, Arasni.
Yeah, Arasni is a big deal right now. So I know this is your favorite. Take it away.
All right. So for the goblins context, I tried creating my own little adventure path because I'm dumb.
Ambitious. We prefer the word ambitious.
Yeah. So long story short, I wanted to make a kingmaker, but in a city where you venerate a god who is like small time, but probably evil. So like imagine evil kingmaker in a city where you're all a bunch of cultists of the same god. And I looked through all the evil gods and I'm like, oh, these are all evil stupid, right? These are all like chaotic stupid, right?
Sure.
All the minor evil gods. The major evil gods have already done their cool thing and they're cool. But I wanted like a small cult of people to like try to start with nothing and then slowly but surely build a collection, a worship of a god, maybe take over a country and then turn that god from nothing to Zon-Kuthon, where he has his own country.
And you went with Trauma Girl.
And unfortunately, I picked probably the worst option, if I'm being honest, which was Trauma Girl, who was technically considered evil.
Neutral evil, 100%.
She was neutral evil, but like...
She was made. Some people are born evil, some people are made evil.
But now she's not made. Now she's not even
Well, we don't have alignments anymore, so we can't tell.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So what I did is I put together, I like researched online all of Arasni's backstory. And I pulled every single thread together. Like I literally contributed to the Wikipedia page, the Paizo wiki on like Arasni and the sources and stuff like that. I just basically put it all together.
That's cool. That's nerd cred right there.
And I like created a dossier of all of the I have a thread, a pretty long thread on the Paizo boards about it too. About all the places that Arasni and all the community helped me find this. I didn't find this on my own. So I created this dossier of where she's been and how she's done everything and all of her history and stuff like that. And this was before she was getting a lot of, like she had, up to this point, she was a major character in the last adventure path of Pathfinder First Edition.
Yeah.
And then she kind of disappears. And now all of a sudden, she's stepping into the limelight again. And I'm really, really happy with the direction Paizo's taking her. I wish they would have given her... They kind of made her a major deity. She's in a list of major deities.
Yeah, she entered the top 20.
So
she was 21 until last week.
I was really hoping that her edicts and anathema, her alignment would be a lot more well-defined.
What are they, in case people haven't read it yet?
So, areas of concern.
This chick used to be neutral evil. Keep that in mind as you hear this.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Or maybe she still is, but now...
She's definitely not neutral evil.
She totally is, but...
Oh, we'll get into it. We'll get into it. Areas of concern. The abused, dignity, unwilling death. Edicts. Act with dignity. Do whatever it takes to survive. Despise and never forgive those who have hurt you. Anathema. Create unwilling and dead. Insult Arasni.
I love that.
It's so petty, dude. It's so fucking petty.
It really is. So she is literally the goddess of the ends justifies the means. This chick is neutral evil to a T. Okay, but she's very much a don't talk to me. Don't worship me. Don't follow me.
Yeah.
Go. Why are you following me? I'm going over here and you're going to stay right the fuck there. look, I'm processing, and I'm going to be processing for a few centuries.
Absolutely.
It's she is a wonderful character, and I'm really happy that she entered the top 20. But she's evil, my dude. And it's not even her fault. She was just sort of like beaten and abused and battered and forced into like psychologically, cosmologically compromising situations until anything good was just snuffed out of her by multiple figures on the planet. It wasn't even like one of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so the reason why I have, first of all, she's a neutral evil deity who is literally living in chaotic good land.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Shaylin cut out a part of her domain.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's
okay.
in the entry.
I didn't read that.
And gave that to her.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's what makes me think she's far closer to, and I know we're using an antiquated alignment system right now, but I grew up in 3.5, and this is how I understand the world. All right, guys, this is my framework.
The world breaks down into 9 components.
Yeah, exactly. Along 9 components, not in. You know what I mean? There's 9 axes. Anyway, I see her shifting from neutral evil to chaotic neutral.
Under the influence of Shalyn, or at least the proximity.
Under the influence of Shalyn, and also like. There's a lot of overthrow your oppressors. There's a lot of that stuff, but there's also still the overthrow your oppressors and do whatever it takes to survive.
Yeah.
Which to me isn't an evil trait. Like protecting yourself from protecting yourself is a human right.
Absolutely. If a wolf is chasing you, you have every right to throw a baby carriage between you and the wolf so that you can get away.
Right. But
and Shalyn's like, okay, do what you have to. Don't do that. No, that's too far.
You have a rapier.
No, Erasne, stop. Take a breath, Erasne. You're in a safe place right now.
Just kill the wolf, Erasne. Don't throw the babies in between.
You're in a safe place.
You're a fucking god. You can kill a wolf.
I want to be a fly on the wall for the conversation with the, what are they called? Like the 3 lesbian lover goddesses.
Yeah.
And Erasne there. And they're all just having a tea party.
She's crossing her arms in the
corner.
Okay.
It's okay.
Grabs the cup.
You don't have to say anything. Just be there.
Oh my God. But yeah, so I love where they're taking her. They're in my opinion, turning her from neutral evil to like
something else.
A Caden Kalian character. She's bitter Caden Kalian.
That's a really weird comparison.
She's
bitter Caden.
She's pre-alcohol Caden Kalian.
When you say bitter Caden Kalian, I almost like picture like the god of incels or something.
I mean, she's got purple hair.
I don't know where to go with that.
I'm just saying.
But you bring up a really good point, because typically in Dungeons and Dragons and just like our, D20 family of TTRPGs,
right.
The god is the god is the god is the god is the god. They don't change.
Right.
They have portfolios. They represent law, order, and books. And that's all you're ever going to get until the end of time. She's changing.
Yeah.
And that's hard-coded into her story. She's been changing for a while, because she started out as one of the heralds of Aradin, didn't she? Like 100 years ago?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then Tar-Baphon got his meat hooks into her. And then Geb got his meat hooks into her. And now Shalyn's got her love hooks into her. And you're in a safe place now. Like 100 years of abuse and torture. And
Shalyn literally gave her a rose garden, and she turned it into a briar patch. I love it, dude. I love it. She literally
don't follow me.
She literally turned it into like a labyrinth of briars with roses at the top.
Yeah, so nobody can follow her.
Exactly.
Because the worshipers keep trying to, jack her for spells.
Well, it says here in the lore that there's like people who want to find like a quiet place to be and be unmolested, if you will, have found refuge there, and have found that she actually makes really good company so long as you mind your manners and do kind of like fall within
That's
her.
cool. I like that. I dig
lines. It. So I really
this
like
is one of those entries I need to actually read, because that's good stuff.
Yeah, and she's like, from my modern understanding of feminism, she represents a very. What, you're laughing over there?
No, we're two white dudes.
I know.
With a podcast, and we're about to talk about feminism.
It's great. I love it. I went to PSU.
I apologize in advance.
I know. Sorry, Tyler.
Hey, some of my best friends are women.
That's true. So anyway, she kind of represents like this very common idea of overthrowing oppressors. All of her oppressors have been men that have told her what to do, and she's finally taken her. She's finally like taken ownership back over her own life, and she has this very cutthroat, do whatever it takes to survive and keep your dignity.
The dignity is one of the important parts.
One of the major parts. And I think that's fucking badass because to me, she like represents this badass, strong, like powerful fight against abusers. And that's such a powerful thing, an icon to have in fucking Pathfinder 2nd edition. Like, imagine anyone in their life who's ever experienced like fucking anything non-consensual.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. I know we're obviously dipping into that territory, but that's what I'm trying to say. Like, she represents the fight against those oppressors too.
She represents actual trauma points that people have in the world. This isn't cartoon evil.
Like very tasteful way to put it, Eric. Thank you.
Yeah, like the fucking Lamash too. You know, she births monsters and she eats people and she's evil. It's cartoon evil. It's like mustache twirling evil.
Right.
This is 6 o'clock news evil.
Yeah.
This is like there was non-consensual everything happening to her for 100 fucking years, and she was abandoned by the other heralds of Aradin. And I want to see that play out because one of them's with Shalyn.
Yeah, it's true.
I think that's true.
Are you talking about?
No, it's Yamade. Yamade is not a part of the. No. Okay, but she's one of the good gods, right? So
Yamade is canonically straight.
Yeah,
I'm kidding. I have no idea.
Anyhow, I really dig it. So one of the things I want to bring up again for people who are just.
By the way, that's the only entry I read tip to tail. Actually, that's not true. I read the Bat God one too because
I read the Norgorber one, and that's the only one I read.
Of course you did.
I had to represent you. So again, if this feels like a lot, and it is because it's 320 pages of stuff, how do you find the stuff you want? How do you find the patterns in this book so you can process that information quickly and get to what you want? I thought they did a brilliant job of having the exact same groupings of information for all of these entries in the top 20. And it breaks down by each of the top 20 has the devotee benefits, the church, aphorisms, followers, holidays.
By the way, we have a whole episode on holidays in your games you can go check out.
Yep, based on the travel guide.
Yep.
So holidays, relationships, divine allies, the realm, divine allies again, apparently, champions, divine intercessions, and all the top 20 have that. So if you're like, what relationships do Norgorber have? Does Lamashtu have? Does fucking Abadar have? Because that's what I want to look for. You don't have to swallow 10,000 words of text. You just go directly there. Yeah. And it's in the same place in every single one of these entries. So if you're a GM and you're like, I just need to know what basic worshipers of the god of song and dance, what do they look like? Because I got a game in 3 hours and I need to tell a believable scene.
And what
you can find it immediately without having to Control F because you have a physical book.
And they have like, they have a picture of the god, and then they have a picture of one of their followers for every single one of the entries.
That was so cool. I love it.
Love that.
And most of it is art that was pulled from Gods and Magic and other previous sources, but I'm sure there's some original art.
There's a bunch of new stuff here. And what I love about this book is they basically now have these pseudo-iconic characters, and they've remastered them. Yeah, see what I did there?
I see what you did.
And they just created new art for them. You know, different artists probably, but like the same character in a new pose.
True, because some of them are just flat out different classes now.
Exactly. Oh. And we'll get to that. We'll get to the crunch here in a minute. But
yeah, I think my favorite part of all of this in the top 20 is it's the church and what it looks like. Because when you have an entry like Asmodeus, what do we know about Asmodeus?
It's red.
Law.
Yeah.
Contracts. And tyranny. I think those are the big three.
I loved my favorite is the top 20 chart, the divine connections map.
We'll get there. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. I want to make my point first, and then we're going to go directly there because that's where we're going next.
Awesome.
But like, I think it's important when you look at these gods to not have them be two-dimensional characters. So if you have Asmodeus, the evil god of lawyers, and his big three things are law, tyranny, and fucking what did I just say? I just named it.
Lawyers.
Lawyers. Let's just say lawyers because I forgot what it was.
Law, tyranny, and lawyers.
Yeah.
And evil.
So you can go to, one city, and that's the Church of Asmodeus with the focus on law.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? It talks about that in here. All right, well, what about half a county away? There's a whole other Church of Asmodeus, but they're really more interested in the tyranny bit. Well, how does that look in your game world? One is law and contracts, and the other one is tyranny. What kind of ripple effects does that have through the region, through the country, through the world? Maybe legal people from the world over come to that legal Asmodean chapter to be like, all right, I'm not saying I condone what you assholes do over here, but you're really smart with this contract
You're damn
law
good
thing.
at it. Yeah.
So I'd like to talk to you about that.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, half a block over, some guys are like, look, I'm not down with the legal contract, but that tyranny thing, you're spot on. Show me how to do that so I can get the presidency for the United States. And then we kind of move on.
So let's talk about. I see what you did there.
All right, we got a relationship map we're about to talk about.
Relationship map.
I fucking love this thing.
Crazy.
It's batshit crazy.
This is crazy. I love that all red lines lead to Rovagug.
Yeah, you like that?
Which is pretty hilarious.
Yeah. He's not even the source of evil. He's just a source of we don't want to go back there.
Breaking shit.
Yeah.
So
bad, okay?
This is a relationship map that has red lines that connect negative relationships.
Yep.
Green lines that connect
Enemies.
positive relationships.
Allies.
And then blue lines, blue dotted lines, purple dotted lines that show lovers and other.
Other, right.
Fuck that means.
Right. We're not sure what the connection is, but there's a connection.
Yeah.
And for some of us who read old adventure pats, we know
what the connection is. Yeah.
Not a secret.
Not a secret. But this is the purple lines. I encourage you to go into the wiki and check out.
Remind me what you said purple was? Is that the lovers?
That's the lovers. Yeah. Go check out the hentai is what I'm saying. Go check out the hentai on the... No, what I meant to say is check out the blue lines. The blue lines do create interesting connections. Like Shaylin to Zankothon.
Yeah.
Brother and sister.
Right. And that's a fraught relationship because he is an evil motherfucker.
Yeah.
And Shaylin has lovers that have good portfolios. And one of them is kind of a vengeful goddess. And she's like, you will atone, or I've got to take you off the map. Why hasn't she gone after Zankuthon?
Yeah.
Because Shailin's like, no, I can win him back.
Be chill.
Meanwhile, our goddess of the sun is over here like, have you done it yet?
Have you done it?
Have you washed the dishes? You said you were going to wash the dishes.
I'm the goddess of the sun, and he's the god of darkness. One of us has to go. So another example is Arasni and Iomade.
Yeah.
Iomade was literally a follower of Arasni.
I didn't know that. I thought they were both heralds of Arasni.
No, she was a champion of Arasni.
Oh, okay.
When Arasni was a herald of Abadar.
Okay.
And you fucking nerds can correct me online if I'm wrong, but I literally wrote the Wikipedia page. So I've had a couple beers at this point, though.
Swing that dick.
But yeah, those are the only two blue lines. So it's the Shaylin Zankothon brother, and then Arasni and Iomade. So basically, it was like, if I'm not mistaken,
you can't have a lot of super complex relationships.
Yeah, Iomade was basically like a stand for Abadar, and vis-a-vis
a stand for Abadar.
A stand they were like a. Sorry, I'm using millennial talk. I'm using meme speak.
I don't understand.
They were like a follower of Abadar and a supporter of Abadar and of Aradin.
Yeah,
Aradin. Yeah. Sorry, Aradin. Yeah, thank you.
Not banks, more humans.
Yeah. And vis-a-vis Arasni, they looked up to Arasni, and then they became a god, and they kind of had their own thing. And originally, the pantheon that Iomade currently holds was kind of under the god of humans. It was like a part of it, thanks to Arasni, pre-lichification.
Okay.
And then she got killed and then turned to a lich, and it was a whole thing.
Do you like the relationship map that Lamashtu has with everyone?
It's pretty rad.
It's fucking red.
Yeah.
There is only red.
It's pretty rad. Pretty rad. They have no connections.
Even Rovagug has a positive connection with somebody.
Yeah.
But Lamashtu, no.
Wait, Rovagug does have a pause?
Yeah, do you see that little purple line going from him to Pharasma?
What?
It's
There's
right
not a
between
purple
them.
line. That's a red line. That's a tiny red line.
It's a tiny red line?
You're colorblind. We just found out on the podcast.
Well, no, that's a really small line. It just looks
He's
purple.
colorblind.
Why is that such a small line? Why isn't it?
So
thick
I think
like all the others?
I think the
Is it a miniature connection?
Yeah, I think the magnitude of the line is probably the magnitude of
No. I'm not buying it because check out the green lines.
Yeah.
The size matters in this chart.
Yeah,
So
that's what I'm
thick
saying.
red, skinny green. Okay, all right. Maybe I'm off my rocker on that one. Callistria has the most fun connections in this entire map for me.
Absolutely.
She's got some serious enmity connections, but she's got some really interesting allied connections. So she's tight with Desna, apparently.
Got a purple dotted line to Caden Kalian.
Right? Because, lust.
Yeah. No, they're lovers.
Yeah.
Canonically, yeah.
Well, she's lovers with probably everybody who's
She's only got
she's
one
the goddess of lust.
fucking one purple line, and it's going to our
I don't know, man. Check out the green line.
Captain Chad over here. Caden Kalian, party animal.
Nethys is also not a party guy, I'm noticing.
That's true.
He's got enemies all over the place.
That's true.
So
No, he only has
the important thing about this relationship map to me, besides the wankery of going, Callistria is, having a soap opera moment with Caden Kalian. That's totally fine, and that will get me like this far in a conversation. But imagine doing this for NPCs in your game.
Yes.
It's right here. Just copy this and then swap out Asmodeus for, Chucklefuck the Third in your game, and then connect it to somebody else. And these guys are allies, and these guys are enemies, and these guys are lovers, and these guys, we don't know what their connection is. And then start imagining what that adventure could look like. Just copy this fucking chart and go, what would my Kingmaker campaign look like if I had a chart like this?
Right.
My Edgewatch campaign, whatever you guys are doing out there. This is a super valuable chart right here for how to do it. It's page 117.
So moving forward, we've got the minor gods.
I didn't spend much time on these guys.
Other gods.
Yeah.
I just want to point out one of my favorites.
21 plus.
There's a bunch of them. A bunch of them I haven't even seen before.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of them that aren't even in here. Two things. One, Dayhawk.
Yeah.
I just want to point out that Dayhawk is a red and black dragon. He's the bad dragon.
Yeah.
If you will. The bad dragon. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. Moving on. I loved Genzeri, the hobgoblin god.
I knew you were going to go to that
Battlefield's modernization and in negotiation and tactics.
Yeah.
I just
didn't it say I think I did read that entry. Didn't it say somewhere like they changed forms to suit whatever?
Right.
Were they originally hobgoblin, or is that just another form?
I want to believe.
Oh, I'm with you.
I want to believe.
Okay. All right, Mulder. I'm with you.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started about Mulder. Ladies and gentlemen, Mulder now has a class. If you ever wanted to play Mulder in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, we've got an archetype for you. We'll get there.
Did you see the Star Eater?
Oh, yeah. One of them is literally a black hole.
Yeah, which is cool because he erupted from the death of Gorham.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A lot of these gods have stories that kind of spin off from the Gorham death.
I see what you did there.
Were affected by it, and this happens to be one of them, brand new deity. There's another one who's I think one of the new gods is like a vampire who only shows up in mirrors or something like that.
Yeah. Also,
and there's like a living sword that was a
Yeah.
part of the Gorham death as well.
Gotcha.
So again, so many Easter eggs in here.
I loved the vampire entry. So
I wasn't sure how to feel about that one.
They are basically like a vampire god, the god of like scientific research to forward vampireness.
To solve the weaknesses that vampires have to deal with. So like one of the cool things in that entry was what was it?
I got it right here. Areas of concern: mathematical laws of undeath, unsolved mysteries, vampires.
Yeah, somewhere in that entry it said, well, there were some weaknesses to vampires, and we solved them. That's a part of what I do as a god, and what my worshipers do is they research this shit, and we're coming up with results, yo. So who knows? You might see us walking around in daylight in a few thousand years.
If you want to make a vampire nerd, here's your god.
But like super tyrannical when it comes to that. You will fucking hit the books, and you will research cures for different vampire weaknesses. Right. And if you don't, you get the fuck out of my religion.
Yeah,
it's very much
that's what they're all about. They're just nerds. Yeah. Nothing else. Nothing else. No other exceptions. Yeah. Razmir has an entry in here.
We were speculating about that a year ago, weren't we?
I read the whole Razmir entry. And I was like, man, this is a lot of dick sucking. What's going on here? And I get to the very end of it, and it's the whole section ends with dash. A true and indisputable accounting of the glory of Razmir as recorded in To Climb the 31 Steps. So like, this is like Scientology meets North Korea, basically. Yeah. North Korea and Scientology is what Razmir is. There's so many Easter eggs in this entry and the Razmirian priest archetype that I cannot wait to dig into. Yeah. Because it's almost like it's like a divine witch is kind of how they're building this. You know what I see it as? Okay, I'm going to say it now. Razmir is like, so the way I see the world is like the 4 domains. We've got arcane, occult, divine, and primal, right? Arcane is like the math of the universe. Primal is the nature of the universe, right? Divine is powers from like the spirit of the universe. The spirit of the universe, like the powers from other powerful beings giving power, so on and so forth. And occult, to me, are like cheat codes of the universe. Okay. Like they're like, it's like an occult spell is take a spoon, lick it, shove it up your ass, and all of a sudden you cast grim tentacles. It's like, wait, what? Why does that work? No one knows. It's just when you do those things, the spell happens. That's a cheat code. That's a glitch in the matrix. Sure. So to me, occult spell casting kind of represents glitches in the matrix, glitches in consciousness and stuff like that. Have you ever seen Everything Everywhere All at Once? No. Oh, Eric. I know. We've had this conversation. It's an incredible movie. Yep. Like definitely deserved all the awards it won. One of the fun parts in that movie is in order to access power you have to do something that literally no one has ever done before in all the multiverses. Okay. So the characters will do really wacky, crazy things in the middle of a fight scene in order to access this random power, because you access it by doing something that's literally never been done in infinite multiverses. Sure. And that's kind of where I'm going with this is, from what I'm gathering, Razmir has ascended to near godhood by using occult power, either from the outer rift or whatever, or from a patron, and he is a witch, or he has some sort of occult power that he pawns off as divine power. And that's representative. That's how it was in first edition. For sure. Right. And that's representative clearly in the Razmirian priest dedication. Right. Which we'll get to in a moment. But like, I just love their commitment to the bit here, where the whole description paragraph is Razmir, the living god, was once a mighty wizard who developed a religious regimen known as the 31 Steps. This text dictates how his priests ascend within the hierarchy of the church. And the specific details of these steps can only be learned by first joining the priesthood. It just screams cult. Right. So hard. Click here to learn more. Exactly. Oh, I love it. They did this so well. They did this so well. My ultimate takeaway from this, besides the fact that I love everything about it, it's in this book. It's in the chapter, Other Gods. Yes.
He's a fucking god.
No, he's not. It's a kayfabe.
It's a what?
It's a kayfabe.
I don't know what that is.
A kayfabe is, it comes from...
Are you being millennial on me again?
No, this is actually from WWE. So a kayfabe is where you have a persona that is so grand that people begin believing it, even though it's not reality. So when you put on enough of a show that it transcends the fakeness and people actually believe you're that character, that's a kayfabe, from what I understand of the term. I'm not a WWE guy. I'm not an American wrestling guy, but I love watching various YouTube channels about wrestling. He's not a god. And what I love, okay, we're in it. We'll talk about it right now.
I think he shouldn't be in this book if he's not.
But that's what's great, Eric. That's what's amazing about it.
I get you. I
He's
see the
in
logic.
the book, and like he has an entry in Other Gods, except at the very end,
I see it.
the entry is just a quote from a book that he fucking wrote. So this is kind of going into him posturing himself as much as possible to be a god, so much so that a little fucking bird nerd who goes around the multiverse trying to find gods is like, well, all these people said he's a god, so I should probably put him in my report, right?
I really like the idea that
there's plausible deniability.
I like the idea that he is a god, but he's such a shitty god that he's just barely over the line into godhood, and he's trumping himself up. But he's this close to not being a god anymore.
There's a line, I can't remember where I read it in the book, but there's a specific line where they say something like, they specifically say he has not transcended. They specifically...
In this book?
Yeah. I'm almost positive. There's a specific line that says, there is reasons why he hasn't stepped over the line yet, basically.
Okay.
And to me... Oh, no. I know exactly where that is. Hold on, let me find it. We're going to just... Can we jump right into the Rasmussen Priest entry?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. So we're jumping right to the bottom of the book, where all the archetypes are, just so we can stay on this topic about Rasmussen, because this is super juicy.
Let's get juicy.
Let me just talk real quick about the mechanic while I'm finding the page. The Rasmussen Priest, it's the second level dedication. It's a normal archetype. There's 2 or 3 class archetypes in this book, which I love. They're doing class archetypes again. Love that. They're basically making them for all the hybrid classes for the most part. Some hybrid classes aren't being made into class archetypes, and there's a good example of that here in this book. Actually, the shaman got turned into 3 different archetypes, which I thought was a great move.
I heard that was coming. I haven't seen it yet.
It's in this book.
Yep.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay, Eric. Okay, Eric. I got past it. There's the witch. My phone can't load fast enough. But anyway, so second level dedication feat basically gives you a mask. I found it. He basically gives you a mask, which has some cool abilities that heals people. But it's like, what I love is fake healing is temporary hit points. So like the mask, I love this effect. You bend quote unquote divine power to your will using techniques taught to you by Rasmussen priesthood. You grant a single target. You touch a number of temporary hit points, equal to twice your level, or for the last 24 hours.
Okay.
That lasts for 24 hours. If the target was unconscious, it regains consciousness and doesn't lose consciousness again due to hit point loss, as so long as it has temporary hit points from the effect remaining. So it does everything that healing does for the most part, but it's not healing. Okay. I love that. It kind of keeps adding to the kayfabeness of it all. It's all a charade. Like it pretends to be like it is. You know, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, is it a duck? No. This duck is
Rasmussen.
This duck is wearing a mask, and when I pull the mask off, it's a Scooby-Doo monster. You know what I mean?
Yep. 3 kobolds in a trench coat.
Literally. So what's interesting about the Rasmussen priest dedication is that this line, the second paragraph, says you can take cleric dedication feat without needing to meet prerequisites and before you take 2 other feats from the Rasmussen priest archetype. But you must choose Rasmussen as your deity. All spells granted by the cleric archetype when gained in this way are occult spells instead of divine, and cleric feats that normally have the divine trait instead have the occult trait. Your key spell casting attribute is still like wisdom, is charisma rather than wisdom.
Nice. Yep.
So again, it leads into the lie. The Rasmussen priest, they're all about deception. They get bonuses. Their masks give them super bonuses to deception. They can literally break zones of truth. They make the person who's using the zone of truth think that they're saying truths in a zone of truth, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
The effects are, the feats are really sporadic. It goes 2 for the dedication feat, 6, 10, 14, and 20. Because you're supposed to be putting cleric feats in between those feats.
Okay.
Right? So it kind of, you go back and forth. But here's the part I want to talk about. They have a level 20 feat.
Okay.
Called the Living God. Prerequisites, Rasmussen priest dedication, legendary, and crafting. Crafting is a big theme through all of this too. I'm just going to read this feat verbatim because I'm almost positive this is where that line came from. You have reached heights of power equaling Rasmir himself.
Uh-oh.
You can craft your Rasmiri mask out of porcelain laced with precious metals or upgrade your existing mask to a porcelain one at the same time. It takes the craft, blah, 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 blah. Gives you a +4 bonus to deception checks, to lie or feint. It's an 18th level item. An apex item increases your charisma modifier by 1 or improves it to +4, whichever is higher. You demand power from the world using your mask as a locus to force reality to bend to your will. You cast manifestation as a 10th rank spell, but no matter what the spell you emulate with it, that spell has the incapacitation trait. And then there's a sidebar. Perilous Proverbs. Divine Alliances. While most gods of Golarion despise Rasmir and reject his claims to divinity, the goddess of Sivana and her priestesses are said to hold Rasmir and his priests in surprisingly warm regard. Priests of Seventh Veil, goddesses of illusions. Perhaps the Seventh Veil, goddess of illusions, respects the trickery and audacity of a man who declared himself a living god. Perhaps she sees a truth in his claim that even Rasmir does not. After all, beings with even less power than Rasmir are revered as gods in places like Sarkoris and other locations across the Inner Sea. Perhaps somewhere inside the desperately ambitious mortal man behind the mask, Savannah sees a truth that the gods themselves refuse to acknowledge: that neither immortality nor the ability to grant divine spells are what make a creature a god. Rather, it is the will to believe and to spread the belief to others. Or perhaps she merely feels sorry for Rasmir, seeing him as a man with the proud audacity to reach for the heavens, but lacking the courage to risk the final step.
Right.
That's the line I was looking for.
Okay.
Dude, lacking the courage to risk the final step to me is, there's a big leap. When you become a god, you have to, touching the Starstone is not enough. Or maybe it's the last step towards the Starstone is the hardest. And there's a bunch of shit you have to overcome, and there's a huge risk that if you do it, you won't become a god, or you'll just be removed from reality. And he's too much of a chicken shit to actually do it.
Right.
That's what this line says to me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the appeal. He stands to lose too much because he's basically in control of his entire mini nation.
He's fucking Kim Jong-un, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
so that's a lot to lose if you're on top.
Exactly. Exactly. So anyway, that's Rasmir. He's in the alternative gods section. Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay. All right. I'm sold. You won me over on that.
Yeah. He's not.
I want to talk about art again. On page 252, there's this really neat sequence of art where it has a young girl, presumably with her mother who's dead.
Yeah,
on
the
a funeral
iconic
bier.
paladin. Yeah.
And there's sort of like there's a crowd of members of the order around, and little girl's got tears going down her face, and she's got her mother's helmet. And the next image shows a girl a few years older with a wooden sword training. And the next image has
practicing with an older teacher behind her. Yeah.
Yeah. And the next one has an older image of her, and she has been inducted into this order, a sword on the shoulder, either side. And the final image has her is a woman in her own power, encased in armor of the Order, and she seems to be putting her hand against the chest of some crazy creature with blood pouring
Some
out
sort
of
of fiend.
a heart wound or something, like she's laying on hands or something like that.
And the fiend is crying gold tears.
Yeah, so just like this is a 2-page spread with 4 cells basically worth of a time jump. It was just so exquisitely done. At first, I thought we were looking at one of the iconics, but then I realized that's not her. So that was
What do you mean? That's not her. That's not her.
I if it is, I totally missed it.
That's got to be her.
Is that her?
The iconic champion? Yeah, that's totally
Is that
her.
her?
It's got to be.
Okay, if it is, then that makes perfect sense.
That absolutely has to be. What do you
All right,
mean?
okay, then I just
She's
missed
a
it.
champion of Iomade. Yeah, absolutely.
Is that Iomade armor?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So love the art, and I totally missed the point of
Or
the
maybe
art,
a champion of Sarenrae. Either way, I think it is a champion of Sarenrae.
There'd be a
Let me
lot
look
more
up.
gold and yellow if that were the case.
No,
I think you're right on
I
the
think-
Iomade.
Anyway, I think it's Sarenrae.
So that was cool.
Yeah, look,
I've got.
here's her right here in this book.
I
that's
guess
the-
you're right. That
that's
was her.
the
So I guess
same
that was her
armor.
transition
Yeah, of
from being a young girl getting inducted into the Order, and now she's laying on hands for fiends.
I'm pretty sure it's Sarenrae. Actually, now that I look harder.
We are probably an hour and a half into this thing.
An hour and
An
8
hour?
minutes.
Okay.
And I still have to talk
I've
about
got
all
some-
the crunch.
I've got some crunch I can talk about. You want to move on to that? Some favorite
absolutely.
things.
Okay. Let me actually pull up my notes because this is what I actually wrote notes on.
Everybody, buckle in. This is what the next hour is about.
Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, goblins out there.
I don't have a ton of examples, but I got some I'm super excited to talk about.
Do you want to talk about new spells first?
Sure, let's
those
do
out
it.
of the way.
I've got a spell.
Hit me with your spell.
Okay. I have 1, 2, I think 3 spells that I'm excited about.
There are new spells and some
There's a lot
revamps
of just old
of
spells from Gods and Magic, but there's a bunch of new stuff too.
A lot of those old spells from Gods of Magic are different.
Sure, because they're remastered.
No, they're like they're completely
Redid them
changed.
completely? Okay.
Like the durations have changed.
Okay.
And they've been the problem I have with the new spells
Mm-hmm.
is that they didn't fucking mark the ones that have changed.
Yeah.
Like they didn't in the original remaster. They didn't tell you that they're different now mechanically, not just by name. And that
They will on the archives, though.
They will. I shouldn't need the archives to navigate your book correctly.
Robert.
I shouldn't.
Yeah, you're the one who sings the praises of Archives of Nethys,
I
and nothing
do.
else matters.
I love
I agree with
archives.
you. Yeah.
But also put a fucking asterisk next to the spell or the thing that
Yeah.
changed. Like
Yeah.
if Warhammer can finally has gotten if those I love boomers. My mom's a boomer. If those fucking boomers can show kindly like highlight in red the things that have changed or the points that have gone down or gotten worse and the point, you know what I mean? Then Paizo can color code the things that have changed for us.
Sure.
Like I shouldn't have to cross-reference every single spell and look at every detail to know which ones have changed. Anyway, soapbox.
You done?
I'm done.
Do you feel better, boo boo?
I do. I do.
Okay,
It really bothered me. It really did.
Fungal Hyphae. 2nd level spell. Traditions, primal, tagged, concentrate, fungus, manipulate. I'm a sucker for fungus related things in D&D.
Oracle. Did
we don't
you
have
see
enough
the
of it.
Oracle?
Huh?
Did you see the Decay Oracle?
I did not, but I'm going to have to.
Okay, cool.
So this is a primal thing. It lasts a minute. The hyphae grow from, I'm probably saying this word right. I'm wrong. The hyphae grow from your feet and plunge into the earth, creating a symbiotic fungal network that attaches to plants within 30 feet and connects you to their root systems. Already, that's just a really cool visual for me. You gain an imprecise tremor sense, allowing you to sense anything directly touching plants within that distance. If you move, the hyphae snap and the spell ends. Heightened, you can control plants in the area to a small degree, allowing you to make strikes with tree branches, expose roots, or similarly solid plants. To do so, you use a strike action, but you can strike any creature you can detect with your tremor sense. Key phrase there.
Yeah.
These are spell attacks that deal 3d8 bludgeoning damage, and then the rest. The reason why I keyed onto this as hard as I did is Tremor Sense is finally fucking useful for something fun. I've been playing this game going on 30 years at this point, and many things have tremor sense. Blind things in the Underdark, cave worms. But I've never really seen fun ways for it to be used, and certainly not for like player characters.
Bro, invisibility. The dude's walking around and he's invisible. Tremor sense.
Yeah, but you also have detect magic, which every party has. So tremor sense, like in and of itself, by itself, having value. I just never saw game design kind of go, hey guys, we're going to make this fun. We're going to make this feel like a side-scrolling one-on-one fighting game, where you can stand there, roots in the earth, and on the other side of the screen, fungal roots come up, and then bap, 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 the guy, and then go back into the earth, and then climb back to your feet. It's a super Darkstalkers kind of Street Fighter experience, which is really cool. Haven't seen this before. I don't know if this was in Gods and Magic, but I don't remember it at all. I'm super keen on this, and I hope they continue to do more shit like this.
Absolutely.
Tremor Sense feels like it should have many uses. I've never seen it at the table, and I certainly haven't seen it in books with crunch in it. A lot of things say, you gain Tremor Sense. So fucking what? When am I actually going to use it?
Right.
This is an explicit use. And it's a second level spell. It's not like you got to wait till you're a 15th level character to get access to something like this.
I really discount things that are high level, like above level 12, just because, like, bro, we're
are you
never
gonna
gonna see this.
Yeah, don't put the good stuff so far out of reach that my GM is going to get tired and fuck off before I can reach it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's my first spell. You go. Is there a spell that you're excited about?
Yeah, so they introduced 2 major spells, Malediction and
sounds evil.
The opposite of Malediction,
Benediction.
So
I know words.
Let's talk about Benediction because they're like literally Bane and Bless, but for AC. So they're Bane and Bless for AC. Duration is 1 minute. There's no sustaining needed. 2 actions, first level spell, 15-foot emanation. +1 status bonus to AC while within the emanation. Once per round on subsequent turns, you can sustain the spell to increase the emanation's radius by 10 feet. Benediction can counteract Malediction. Malediction is literally the opposite. It says, will save or take a -1 status penalty to AC. And then you can spend a sustain to make it 10 feet bigger. So it's quite literally reverse Bane and Bless.
Sure.
Which is awesome because we've got this incredible class archetype for the cleric called the Battle Harbinger that we're going to talk about. This is, from a mechanics perspective, the big splash that this book offers. Is the Battle Harbinger. They finally did something right for the cleric. The cleric is now cool and interesting again. So we'll get to him after we're done with
Deadly Simplicity wasn't enough for you?
Oh, baby. That's just the start. That's just the start. So yeah, Malediction, Benediction, they're very cool. Very cool.
Très cool.
Very cool. Do you have another one for me?
Oh, do I have another one for you?
Let's go.
So I'm not as well versed in crunch as you are, but this one just seems like it can create super fun moments and dynamic moments at the table. So Liberating Command, first level spell. It's a 1-action spell, so right out the gate, I'm ready for it because spells cost 2 actions almost unanimously.
Yep.
But this one doesn't. It's 1. Can I get 2 spells in a round? I'm here for it. Auditory, Concentrate, Manipulate. It's an occult spell. Range 60 feet. That's a lot of fucking feet.
That's true.
You can be away from the combat and still affect combat. You can be up in a tree and still affect combat. You can't do that with every spell. A lot of spells that do fun things, they're really like 30 feet, and they urge you to get close.
They're mid-range, I'd say. 30 feet, 30 to 60 is mid-range.
Yeah, but having that 60 feet target one creature, you call out a liberating cry, urging an ally to break free of an effect that holds them in place. If the target is grabbed, immobilized, or restrained, which often happens if you're using the bestiary right, it can immediately use a reaction to attempt to escape. When do wizards go in combat?
Normally first.
So if somebody was grabbed, when do fighters and marshals tend to go in combat?
after the wizard.
Right. So when do monsters tend to go in combat?
Somewhere in between.
Yeah. So the wizard typically does a thing, the monster does a thing, and the marshal does a thing, and the marshal is probably grabbed at that point, and then the cycle comes back to the wizard. So if the wizard does go first, they can be reactionary towards whatever just happened to their marshals in the previous round of combat.
Right.
And then they can cast their 2-action spell to do real damage. So it's almost like this 1-action spell is almost like a reaction.
Right.
Without using their reaction. And it's not like there's a chance that your fighter is going to fail to use this in terms of me using the spell.
Because
they still have to make their attempt to escape.
Right.
But if it's a well-crafted, character, then you've got the tools to do that. So I'm a wizard. I go first in combat or somewhere in there. I free my melee character.
Right.
So they can use all their shit. They're free at this point if they successfully do their escape. That happens before I take my second action. Did they escape? Oh, they did? Great, here comes a fireball.
Exactly.
They didn't escape? Oh, okay, great. Here's my other support I can offer. It's a really cool way to do battlefield manipulation based on the previous round of combat, informing the current round of combat. And I now get to determine the rest of the round of combat to a limited degree in a way I couldn't if I didn't have the spell in my book. It's a level 1 spell. You get it right out the gate. All of that just feels like it's a massive bang for your occult buck. and being able to, this Pathfinder game being a game of, 4 characters interacting with each other and helping each other to survive and thrive on a battlefield. That's exactly what this is. Nothing I've seen says it better than this spell, so clearly and concisely, and at such a low level.
Yeah, I'm singing praises about spells.
I love it. Did this spell exist before this, or is this a brand new spell?
It sounds familiar.
Okay.
What's the name of it again?
Liberating Command.
Yeah.
I've never heard of it before, and if it's a thing, okay, fine. I just didn't know about it. But all of this makes me happy and makes me want to play a bard. And I never want to play a bard.
Yeah, Liberating Command, occult, 1 action, 60-foot range, targets 1 creature. You call it a liberating cry, urging the ally to break free of an effect that holds them in place. If the target is grabbed, immobilized, or restrained, it can immediately use a reaction to attempt to escape. Is it exactly the same?
Yeah, everything you just said reads here. So I guess this guy's been around. Okay, fine.
1 action, verbal. Traditions occult. It came out.
There's no verbal anymore. It's,
yeah, you're right.
Auditory concentrate manipulator.
So it came out in Gods and Magic. So that's probably why they reprinted.
So it's a carryover.
But so here's my issue.
What's that?
You didn't know if that was changed at all, did you?
I did not. No, I didn't even know if it was new or not. So
talk about Paizo.
Yeah.
Come on, just give me an asterisk. That's all I ask.
So fine, it's existed for a couple of years since the book, but it's in this book, and I'm excited about it. So I wanted to.
And you've never played an occult spellcaster, right?
Have I? No, I don't think so. No, I haven't. Not in Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Not in Pathfinder 2nd edition.
Right.
No. Maybe it's time.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it is time.
You have a spell. And
so this one's really cool. It's called Endure.
Mm-hmm.
This is a spell that already existed in the game, but there's one major change that's made it go from never used and practically useless to something people are actually going to start taking. Endure, 1 action. We know you love those 1 action spells, Eric.
Yep.
Level 1 spell. Range touch. Not the best.
Touch is rough.
Touch is rough. Targets 1 creature. Duration 1 minute. This is the important change. It used to be 1 round. Now it's 1 minute.
That's a lot of rounds.
Exactly. You invigorate the touched creature's mind and urge it to press on. You grant the touched creature 5 temporary hit points that last for 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then it can be heightened +1. The temporary HP increases by 5. So every spell level, you get 5 more HP. The reason this is important is because this is an arcane and occult spell, meaning that before, your pretty much only source of healing in arcane and occult was this spell, and it sucked because it only lasted a round. So if they never got hit,
sure,
it didn't matter.
Right.
And it's temp HP. So This is a big deal for a lot of arcane and occult spellcasters.
Yeah, and
they're going to be putting
in
one
an
of
age
these
where
in
we
their
now
pockets.
have field medic
Yeah.
and that sort of kind of like natural healing.
Mm-hmm.
Now they bring this spell out.
Yeah.
Where was it 10 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, like, here's the thing, like, the battle medicine skill can only really take you so far.
Right.
And temp HP is just as good as HP when you get hit.
Yep.
So I think it's a really cool improvement. And arcane, like, I'm going to be, every time I play an arcane or occult spellcaster going forward, they're going to have at least 2 of these in their pocket.
Yeah.
Especially when they're like 7th,
Super utilitarian.
12th level. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Got
So I got a focus spell for you.
A focus spell.
Yeah.
From who?
From the dragon batch. Come here, you little bastard. Where are you?
Are we talking about the devotion section?
What are we talking about? Yes.
Okay. I got one.
Yes,
I got one more normal spell, and
Normal
then
spell.
let's
Give me your normal
jump into
spell.
the domains because domains are its own thing. They
Yep.
did a lot of cool shit with domains. Whirling scarves.
This sounds super familiar, and I'm pretty sure this was Gods and Magic.
It probably was. I'm going to talk right now.
Is there an asterisk?
Unfortunately, there's no fucking asterisk. But whirling scarves, either it existed before, and it did in Gods and Magic. I didn't know. This is my version of the spell you just talked about. I didn't know this existed, and it's so fucking good. Like, it's kind of crazy. All you goblins should know by now that I love concealment. Concealment is just a good effect.
Like half of our bodies right now are concealed.
Literally.
This is true.
Which means we have a 25% chance of not getting hit.
Yeah.
Which is
And
crazy.
I still have an action left, so I can take greater cover.
Exactly.
You won't find me.
Exactly.
All right. Hit me.
You surround yourself with a vortex of, it lasts a minute. It's a 3rd level spell, 2 actions. You surround yourself with a vortex of whirling colorful scarves that force, and that obfuscate you and disorient your foes. You gained the concealed condition, but only against ranged and melee attacks. When a melee attack fails to hit you because of a flat check for the concealment condition, the scarves snag the weapon or unarmed attack, and the creature takes a -1 circ penalty to further attacks with that weapon or unarmed attack until the end of its turn. The timing of the scarves movement is harder to predict for ranged attackers, so the flat check for the concealed condition against ranged attacks increases from DC 5 to DC 6. That's badass. You can heighten it from 3 to heighten is +2, so from 3 to 5 to 7 to 9. The circumstance penalty to further attacks with melee weapon or unarmed attack the scarves snag increases by 1, and the DC of the flat check increases by 1. So it goes from DC 5 to 6 to 7 to 8, or 1 more higher.
So why do you like
this?
What about it excites you?
It lasts a minute, so it lasts an entire fight. Concealment
Always handy.
is an insane buff on its own. If this was a 3rd level spell, it says, "Hey, bro, you're concealed." I'd take it. Honestly, it's concealment that follows you around wherever you go. It lasts the entire fight. As a spellcaster, you're always getting hit or shot, and that sucks.
Right.
I lost a spellcaster kind of recently, last year or two, Dragrid. And concealment would have been really fucking nice. Because at a DC...
In a room devoted to shadows.
At a DC... I mean, yeah. A DC 5 means you have a 20% chance of not getting hit.
Right.
Because if you roll 4, 3, 2, or 1, you don't get hit. That's effectively a +4 bonus to your AC. Where in the fucking game are you going to get that?
You're not.
And it's actually better than that because it's additive. It's multiplicative. That probability stacks with your AC.
Okay.
So you first have to roll for concealment, then you get to hit me. So from a mathematical perspective, concealment's really powerful in aggregate. It feels kind of bad because, you use it and in only 1 out of 4 fights, it actually feels useful.
Sure.
So from a feelings perspective, it doesn't feel that great. But from an actual math and mechanical perspective, it's pretty powerful. The fact that you can increase the concealment DC at all blows my mind. Like, that's strong. 25 from a 20% chance to a 25 to a 30 to a 35 to a 40. That now we're getting into very powerful territory. And it also gives a debuff if they miss to the concealment. So to me, it's just a really powerful, concise spell at 3rd level, am I going to be picking it the second I hit 3rd level or the 6th level? Probably 5th level, rather. Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm 8th level, I'm going to be heightening one of those 5th level spell, or those 3rd rank spells up to a 4th rank.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be putting in Whirling Scarves, and it's going to stick in my back pocket ad nauseum. Because the second I think I'm ever going to get into melee, pop that, I'm out. And it's divine and occult.
Nice.
So it covers a lot. Like, it covers 2 major pantheons. So I just think it's a great, and the art for it is fucking beautiful.
Yeah, it's pretty gorgeous.
Fucking rad. It's just a powerful spell. Concealment's really powerful. You heard me talk about it later on in the episode with a couple of the other player options too. Concealment pops up once or twice more.
Can we talk about dragons?
Devotion spells.
We're going to move on to dragons.
They have upgraded a couple of the devotion spells. They're just more powerful than they were before. And I think that's good. I think a lot of the focus spells were too expensive for what they gave you a lot of the times, and they didn't scale well.
I've heard that many times, yes.
And I'm very happy to see the draconic barrage get better.
This one just, I love this for the lulls. So dragon, you draw on the power of dragons, Lenorms, and other powerful reptilian creatures. Specifically, Roar of the Dragon is a 4th level focus spell.
Oh.
This motherfucker has 8 traits. Uncommon, auditory, cleric, concentrate, emotion, focus, manipulate, mental. 30-foot emanation, defense, will, duration varies. You channel the might of dragons into your voice, letting out a roar that engenders respect in dragonkind, but that instills fear in most other creatures. The impressive roar grants you a +2 bonus to diplomacy checks for 10 minutes against dragons that were in the area at the time of casting. Roar of the Dragon affects non-dragon creatures with deep ties to dragonkind, such as barbarians with the draconic instinct, sorcerer with the draconic bloodline, etc., as if they had the dragon trait. The GM decides if a creature is aligned enough with dragonkind to be affected in this way. All enemies in the area other than dragons must attempt a will save. To these enemies, Roar of the Dragon is a fear effect. 4 degrees of success. The creature is unaffected. Creature is frightened 1, frightened 2. Creature is frightened 3 and fleeing for the first round. So that's a wide range.
Classic
of things
dragon
that happen.
roar. Yeah.
Exactly. So I read this thing and I'm like, okay, that's cute. And then I read it again and I had like the movie play in my head. And I had recently watched Emperor's New Groove.
Okay.
So I'm just picturing like, a kobold fires out this draconic roar, and we see what the effect is, and people run away, and 2 guys are standing there, and one looks to the other and says, no, he's got a point.
That was pretty good.
Because it's diplomacy for these guys.
Yeah.
It's like, that was a good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's great.
Hey, guys, what do you think? Guys? So it's comedic because you don't know who's who over there. Unless they've got it painted on their fucking vest and they have, dragon wings sprouting out. But I can totally see a GM just sort of like maneuvering this. And in Edgewatch,
A whole
Nick is
crowd
going to be
runs
using
away,
this. Yeah.
and then one guy's left over.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, nice.
Okay, I'm sold. Can I join?
Yeah.
Do you need a 6th player?
Yeah, exactly.
So Roar of the Dragon just made me laugh.
My character's just going to die again.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to play his draconic
I was working for the BBEG, but I kind of like the cut of your jib.
Yeah, exactly.
Roar of the Dragon.
Love it.
Focus
Love it.
4. What do you got?
There's a couple new domains that they introduced in this book. I didn't cross-reference all of them. But one that really popped out to me was like, I've never seen that before, is the domain of nothingness.
I see it. You draw power from emptiness.
Now, are the abilities good?
Abilities, there's like 2.
Only the focus spells.
3.
Are they good?
2.
They're kind of, one is empty inside. Basically,
So emo.
it's so emo. Basically, you spend a focus point for one action to attempt a counteract check against one emotion effect affecting you. Yeah.
You inject a sliver of the void into your mind. Like, we're not talking void damage, right?
No, it's just like
It's like the void, outer
empty
space,
inside. It's
the great
literally
old one.
like, I've been affected emotionally. Nah, Brad, I'm empty inside. I don't feel anything.
Yeah,
I'm
dead inside,
bro. I'm one with nothingness, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hurt me, bro.
You want to listen to some Death Cab for Cutie?
Fuck off. I love Death Cab. You take those words back. They're full of emotion.
I will follow those words into the dark.
Oh my God. And then Door to the Beyond, actually not that bad. It's pretty interesting. But I just want to point out that there are a bunch of, maybe not a bunch, but quite a few new domains, thanks to the new gods that have entered the Pantheon.
Yeah, new design space. Exactly. And cool.
And I don't know exactly what those are because I didn't take the time to cross-reference every domain because I have a life.
Did we have Swarm before?
It
feels like Paizo's kind of somebody on that design team is in love with swarms.
They are, recently. And I'm a fan because I'm also in love with swarms.
Yeah. Time.
I'm gonna look it up.
Toil.
Yeah. Toil's already there.
Dwarves.
Toils. And
Okay. I've got nothing left, and you want to talk about the Battle Harbinger.
Swarm was in Gods of Magic actually.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So you've got nothing left. Is it really just me talking for the next hour? Hell yeah, let's go. All right,
do it,
goblins. I hope you like my voice. Battle Harbinger. I've got fucking notes. All right, I wrote the most amount of notes for Battle Harbinger, and okay, so the cleric. The cleric has two flavors to it technically in the core rulebook. You can either play a casting cleric who's good at casting.
Right.
And gets better at casting when all other casters get better at casting. Or you can play a cleric who sucks at casting and doesn't get as good as other casters. What do they get?
But at least they get Deadly Simplicity.
But at least they get Deadly Simplicity and they can wear medium armor. That's it. Are they a marshal?
Yeah.
No.
That was my playtest character, by the way, for the Pathfinder playtest back in the day.
Rough.
Was the Battle Cleric. I was very excited about it.
So the War Priest is what they call it, which is ironic because War Priest, anyway, there's some context there. Like one of the combined classes was called War Priest. So we were all really confused when they used the terminology, and it sucked and it didn't live up to what we expected it to be.
Sure.
So basically, with this new art is the War Priest from the Unchained or the Hybrid Classes book.
Right.
It's the same art, or it's the same character with new art, thankfully. The art is amazing.
I like it.
So what is a Battle Harbinger? The way they sell it is basically a Battle Harbinger is a angry version of a paladin. It's basically a martial follower of a deity who focuses less on protection and more on aggression and war and going to war.
They're church
and
knights.
Fighting.
Okay.
They're literally church knights. Yeah. It's pretty interesting. What they did is they basically took the cleric and they made a real war priest out of them. So it's a cleric class archetype. So it replaces a bunch of mechanics in the cleric class. Your class is cleric. You don't gain Resolute Faith class feature, which is 9th level will save evasion. You don't gain Miraculous Spell class feature, which is like a 19th level who gives a fuck capstone ability.
Right.
You gain, you now have like your spellcasting changes. Your spells per day change from your normal spells per day for a big caster to Magus spells per day.
I saw that, yeah.
Which means you get 2 spells every day for your main spells, and you get like 5 cantrips.
Right.
So you get a bunch of cantrips, and then you get, like let's say you're 10th level. You'll get 2 5th level spell slots, and you'll get 2 4th level spell slots. And that's it. Nothing lowered at all. Which is fine because you're a marshal now. Divine Font changes. You no longer get heal or harm. Rather, you get Bane or Bless and other quote-unquote battle aura abilities that we'll get to here in a minute.
They're offensive champions.
They're literally offensive champions, but in the cleric class, so they get actual spellcasting, which is actually makes them more powerful than champions.
Yeah, I see that.
Which is kind of cool. So basically, instead of heal or harm, you gain the battle aura ability, which basically lets you cast Bane and Bless, as well as Benediction and Malediction later as a feat. So the idea here is you have 4 spell slots in addition to your other 4 spell slots you can only use to cast, your spells. There's shortened spell list, or not spell list, but your shortened spell slots. In addition, you get 4 more spells, and they have to be Banes or Blesses, which is pretty cool. That's a +1 status bonus to attacks. That does not stack with the +1 status bonus from clerics, or sorry, from bards, which is important. At 5th level, this goes up by 1, and then again at 15th level. So you go from 4 extra Banes and Blesses at 5th level to 5 extra Banes and Blesses at 5th level, and then at 15th level goes up from 5 to 6. Pretty straightforward. Another interesting, important part here is that your battle aura uses your class DC and not your casting DC.
Okay.
Which is important because, like, Bane, for instance, has a will save to it. And it would really suck if your whole thing was that you have these cool auras, but only half of them actually worked because half of them were buffed and the other half were debuffs. Mm-hmm. But your check was so low all the time that everyone always passed their saves anyway. Mm-hmm. So what they've done here is they've basically keyed the important buffs that are core to your mechanic to your class DC, which scales very well, versus your caster DC, which scales very terribly because you're not a caster. Mm-hmm. You're now a martial character. Let's get into why you're a martial character. You don't choose a doctrine, cloistered or war priest. Instead, you get these things called creeds. At 1st level, you get trained in light and medium armor, as well as martial weapons and your deity's weapon. And you also gain deadly simplicity, as well as expert in fortitude saves. So you get the whole core package of what every martial gets.
Nice.
You can now use weapons good at 1st level. And then at 5th level, you get expert in weapons and you get critical specialization for your deity's favored weapon, I believe. It could be both. I can't remember. Then at 9th level, you get reactive strike, which is huge.
Okay. Uh-huh.
At 13th level, you get expert in your armor, which is nice. It's, I think, on par with most other martials. And at 13th level, you gain master in your deity's favored weapon only. So what I like about this is instead of, like, for instance, getting master in all weapons, you only get it in your deity's favored weapon, meaning by then you really should be leaning on your favorite weapon. And you honestly should have picked your deity's favorite weapon from the very beginning. Yeah, you know what I mean? I like that it doesn't make you a perfect martial character because in this instance, you would get access to more, you would get access to other weapons and stuff. So it's got a minor debuff at 13th level, but like we just said earlier in the podcast, most of us won't even make it to 13th level in our campaigns anyway. Right. So it kind of doesn't matter.
There's a 15th level and a 19th level option as well.
Yeah, exactly. But those are, I don't really talk about those capstone things. Yeah. Feats. So I'm just going to run through a TLDR of all the feats they give you available. Yep. There's one that lets you add spells to your battle aura and buffs. So your battle aura gets to include malediction and benediction. There's other AoE spells that you get to add to that little extra side pocket of spells that use your class DC instead of your spellcasting DC and are in addition. So you really have like 2 spell pools. You have a cleric spell pool of any fucking spell in the divine spellcasting list. So you're going to be prepping a bunch of utility stuff that are buffs or utility that doesn't really require like saves, but can go off without a hitch. And then you've got these other spells that are more offensively minded, but have a much smaller list and are constrained by taking feats. There's a feat that lets you sustain a spell when you land a hit and deal damage, which is fucking awesome.
That's cool.
6th level heavy armor feat. There's another feat that gives you more spell slots in addition to the extra spell slots we already talked about for more buffs. There is a feat for free property runes on weapons, just like a champion would get.
Okay.
12th level, you get a feat that lets you crit to increase the buff bonus of auras. So right around the same level, the bard is getting access to ways to increase their +1 status bonus to hit. At the same time, this class is getting access to ways to increase its status bonus to hit. So it really kind of does keep up in some ways with a bard and its ability to be one of the ultimate buffers at the table. Can it do that all day long? No, because its creeds and its buff spells have a limited number, whereas the cantrips that the bard casts can go all day long.
Right.
But honestly, like 4 or 5 are going to last you the entire day's worth of fights. Very rarely is a DM going to throw like 6 fights at you in one sleeping day.
Right.
Finally, there's another feat that gives you multiple auras at one time, so you can hold multiple auras at one time. And then there's another feat that lets you sustain auras for free, as like one aura you can sustain as a free action.
Okay.
So there's a couple other capstone feats
God,
that are like 15, 16, 17th level and stuff like that. But dude, they finally did it, man. They finally gave clerics an actual war priest that matters.
Yep.
And it's not a magus. Like it's not just like reskinned magus, which I was kind of worried about because magus, I love magus, but it's really complicated to play.
Right.
This is a lot less complicated to play. You're a dude with armor. You walk forward, you cast aura spells that buff your friends, and you hit your opponents. That's what the class is.
Yeah, and it didn't come too soon either with the War of the Immortals and with the books coming up with the new character classes next year.
They were finally able to capture the 3rd edition like vibe, the 3.5 D&D vibe of what a cleric was, because clerics were actually not bad. They're medium BABs, but full casters, and they were not bad in fights. Pathfinder 2nd edition has divorced marshals from casters. You're either one or the other. And if you're neither, you're terrible. So I just kudos to Paizo, the designer who came up with this. You did a great job.
Well done.
Absolutely fantastic job. I have 0 complaints about this. I think
Really?
It's very well balanced
I'll be damned.
and competitive with other classes, but it's not overpowerful. Like it's not better than the bard. It's as good as a bard.
Okay.
Which and it's also not a copy of the bard. It's just as good at buffing as the bard for the most part, but you could argue the bard's a little better. It's also worse in spellcasting. So like, is it a bard replacement? No, but bards don't hit as hard as a cleric does. There is a bard, a martial bard, effectively, but it doesn't do martial as well as this does, if my memory serves me well. So there's gives and takes that make them both unique in their own respective ways. The bard is always going to be a caster. This new war priest, which is called the Battle Harbinger, because they already used the term war priest somewhere else in the game, really pulls off the theming they were going for in an impressive way that's actually competitive with other classes. I love that for them.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my big.
I am definitely going to go back and study this one in particular.
Yeah, if I could talk about nothing else, it's the Battle Harbinger. That's
this
what
is
I'm
your
most.
big takeaway.
That's
from this
my
book?
big takeaway.
Yeah?
It's the most
Fabulous.
important thing they've published in this book, in my opinion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 100%.
And we buried it at the back of the episode. Well done.
Yeah, well there you go. Fucking you goblins who didn't stick around. I love that we joked around. This is only going to be an hour-long episode, and we're already into an hour 44.
Yeah.
So let me just burn through the rest of it.
Do it.
Champions of Faith. Champions got oaths. Basically, once per at the beginning of the day, you take an oath against a specific category of opponents, and then you get certain buffs against them. These are all 2nd level feats. I mean, it'll be 2nd level. A couple of them are 4th and 6th, I think. So they're flexible enough to be powerful and yet still restrictive to be thematic. So you choose aberrations, celestials, dragons, fiends, or undead. And of course, if you're like a bad cleric, or if you're a bad champion, you can't choose fiends. And if you're a good champion, you can't choose angels to have an oath against. There's a lay on hands to deal damage against your oath. There is your allies get resistance to damage against your oath, but you don't, which I thought was very interesting. There's a +1 spirit damage for the chosen oath group. Increases to +2 at 7th level and +3 at 14th level. It's just 1 spirit damage. So it's very reminiscent of the original Smite, which I really missed. They kind of got rid of Smite with the champion because they completely redesigned the class from being a striker to being more of a defensive striker, which is fine. But I like how we're kind of coming back to an homage to that. There is a once per hour +1 status boost to attack and AC against the chosen target of an oath. So imagine you've oathed against dragons at the beginning of the day, and you go fight a dragon, but he's got a bunch of kobold mooks. You basically challenge him in combat. You get super bonuses against them, +1 to hit, +1 to damage, but you get -1 to hit and AC, I think it is, against all the mooks that you didn't challenge, even if they are the same type.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that.
And then one more interesting feat. There's a bunch more feats in here that just don't really wet my whistle too much. But there's one that's kind of cool. It's called On a Pale Horse, where you get like if you're like a bad champion, you know, an evil champion, you get like to give your mount like a supernatural resistance to damage, either like fire or necrotic or void or something like that. And it's just super thematic and badass, and it makes me it gives really cool flavor to evil champions, which I'm excited for.
Yeah, because we've been wanting evil champions for a long time now.
Yeah, and we have them, you know, in remastered. They give us all the rules for evil champions. And
was it neutral champions that we didn't have?
No, we have those as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just remember like Hell Knights were the closest we could get to that for the longest time.
It was, and then they came out with rules in another book before the remaster.
Okay.
I can't remember which book that was right now. And then they included them in the remaster as just the full context for champions. You can be a good champion, you can be a bad champion. There's three flavors. There's 3 flavors of each, basically. There's no neutral champions, if I remember correctly.
Am I showing there are 3 new Oracle mysteries in here?
There are 3 new Oracle mysteries, yeah, and they're all very
Blight,
fucking cool.
And Time.
Yes.
I love that Time artwork.
Isn't that awesome? I wrote in my notes, the Time gnome looks like a classic Final Fantasy Time mage.
Absolutely. That's
so
Final Fantasy 9
nose.
artwork in my...
It's so on the nose. I love it. So let's jump right in.
Do it.
To the... I'm going to scroll down past all this.
Page 286.
We're not on witches. There are new witch patrons as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oracle mysteries. Ashes and Blight. They're pretty much the same thing, so I'm going to cover them together.
Mm-hmm.
Ashes and Blight are very clearly blaster casters. Ashes is a fire themed blaster caster, and Blight is a acid and poison themed blaster caster.
Okay.
What's interesting to me is that at first I thought the Ashes one was better than the Blight, but then I looked at the downsides. Oracles are all about their Cursebound trait, where they get major debuffs to themselves and downsides.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of playing an Oracle is mitigating and downplaying your Cursebound, so you can just pump that sucker up as high as you can throughout the whole battle. I realized while I was reading Ashes 2 things. One, it's fire damage, and you get weakness to fire damage. So that's pretty bad because fire damage is like the most popular damage in the game.
Right.
Yeah, it's like the most popular elemental damage in the game. So having weakness to it means that you're just more likely to get take worse damage in other fights. Mm-hmm. The other thing is its Cursebound 2 trait gives you a -2 circumstance bonus to hit with ranged attacks.
Okay.
Which actually makes them a very bad blaster caster, because a lot of blaster caster spells are reflex saves, but many more are attack rolls, ranged attack rolls. Then when we look at the Blight mystery, it has a lot of the same upsides as the Ash caster, but its Cursebound traits only really care about like acid damage and like disease effects, and making it harder for you to resist disease effects. Sure. Which are a lot fewer and further between than fire damage and you making ranged attacks. So to me, the clear winner here is Blight over Ashes if we were comparing them. I believe there's also another flame mystery that you could take in addition to Ashes, but Ashes was in the original Pathfinder game. So I think they really wanted to bring that, bring that in the game again, even though it kind of already exists. So let's talk about Time Mystery.
Time Mystery.
The fucking art is amazing.
Yeah.
I love it. I love time shenanigans, especially in Paizo products. All of the time stuff they've published so far is awesome. I mean, I played a time mage. Dragard was a time mage, the archetype. Yeah. Loved that. This is clearly a debuff buff caster, and the time shenanigans often mean that you're adding and subtracting actions, which is, action economy is king in a game like this. super powerful.
It's like Final Fantasy Tactics kind of feeling for me at this point.
Exactly. And that's what I love about it, because FFTA is like literally one of my favorite games of all time.
I remember.
So I love this mystery. It's super cool, very thematic. It ties in really well. There's a section in the mysteries where it kind of tells you what mysteries each god would be representative of, in case you wanted to have a very religious connection with your oracle, instead of having another kind of connection, because a mystery can be any kind of mystery. It can come from any kind of patron, if you will. It's the source of your power can come from anywhere you want it to be. It's a fucking mystery.
Right.
But if you want to really go the divine route, they give you a cool list of gods that you can lean on. Seems to be like a very good buff caster, very good debuff caster. Slows your enemies, gives your friends the quicken condition with one of its focus spells. All around, really, really cool. Its Cursebound trait is kind of rough, actually, but not terrible and not impossible to mitigate, if I'm being honest. And my app that was holding my PDF just reset. So,
oh no!
Read for us.
I had to shut mine down too.
Do you have yours up right now? Do you have the Cursebound trait up?
Cursebound trait. Come on, where are you?
Or the time
I'm looking,
mystery. I got it right in front of me. I got it right here. So the Cursebound trait is, like I said, kind of interesting. It doesn't have a tiered one like normal. So basically, as you become more affected by your curse, time's passage becomes more disjointed to you, making it difficult for you to react to the quick actions of others. You take a status penalty to your AC against attacks made against you from reactions or free actions, and a status penalty to saving throws against effects that would make you fatigued or slowed, equal to your Cursebound value. Is this bad? Yes, because attacks of opportunity and stuff like that fall under this purview. But like, it's pretty easy for you as a caster to avoid attacks of opportunity or avoid putting yourself in those situations. So let's say you're a caster and you're in the back line buffing your friends, debuffing your opponents.
Right.
30-foot range, like we talked about. And then one of the opponents charges up to you. Now you're in a position where they can probably make a reactionary strike if you try to move away, and then your Cursebound effect comes into play.
All right.
But if your friends are smart and you're positioning yourself well, you can kind of make sure you never get in that position to begin with, and then your Cursebound effect is completely mitigated for the most part. You also get penalties to effects that incur the fatigued or slowed condition. And those are kind of rare, if I'm being honest. I mean, I haven't read every monster manual entry, but like...
You don't see them.
You don't see them.
Yeah.
So for the most part, the Cursebound is pretty negatable. Okay. So that's why I give it a meh. If it does affect you, it really fucking sucks because your AC is already pretty low. And then you're getting more AC debuffs. But at the same time, be smart, mitigate it, especially as a control caster, and you should be fine. Okay. So all in all, very high rating on the time mystery. Probably what I would play, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
When I finally am able to play the
Oracle.
The Oracle. And I might be playing in a game soon.
Yeah.
Might be stealing Eric's GM. Who knows? No. You can do both.
I must defeat Karzug before you.
So for context, Eric is playing in a play-by-post in our Discord right now. And the DM...
It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun. Come to our Discord, check it out. The DM for that has also said that they'd be interested in DMing a weekly game on Sundays for me.
I'm afraid.
And he's afraid that they won't have the spoons for both games.
It happens many times in my life.
Completely valid concern. Completely valid. Absolutely. But I'm doing my best to mitigate all of the downsides to prepping our game. I was able, one of our wonderful people in our Discord, one of our lovely goblins, gave us the codes to all of the Bloodlords.
That was
boundary
a cool
things. That was fucking awesome. I was willing to pay for them, and they're like, "No, dude, just take it." Like, what? Which is pretty sick because I posted on a bunch of other Discords saying, "Hey, does anyone have them for sale?" And no one got back to me. So, so that's pretty rad. I'm pretty happy about that.
I like the object familiars for the witches.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Oh my god,
straight up Baba Yaga stuff.
Well, Baba Yaga is a new patron you can have, which is pretty
she
rad. You want to
is.
talk about that, Eric? I've been talking for too long.
Yeah, I don't have much to say on it. Just the fact that Baba Yaga is basically an NPC in every fantasy D20 game you're ever
It's
going to
like
find.
one of your favorites too, right?
Yeah. You know, she kind of. I fell in love with Baba Yaga through Vampire the Masquerade.
Okay,
so
cool.
she's basically a 4th generation Nosferatu. Very, very, very old and very vampiric. And she got eaten, unfortunately, by Niktoku. But when you get to the D&D version of Baba Yaga, she's usually this planar crossing, just damn near demigod that
Hag,
does a bunch of
right?
shit.
Yeah.
And Pathfinder kind of did the same thing
Right.
with it. But, you know, she's a woman who rides around in a flying cauldron, and she's got the, you know, the broom, and she's got the stick, and, you know, there's the fence, and there's a lot of, like, stuff around her.
There's a house with legs.
There's a house with chicken legs.
Yeah.
So she surrounds herself with sort of like mundane items, but they're magicked and they're animate, and it's like watching Fantasia with
Yeah.
Mickey in the dancing brooms, you know. So just the fact of having like a patron that's not a cat, that can be like your paperclip
Yeah.
with little googly eyes.
Clippy, dude. Oh my God. The notes I wrote for witch patrons, object familiars, make a dildo your familiar and give it legs, LOL.
Yep. And then, you know, you're Callistrian or something. I don't know.
Right.
But
just
yeah, I
imagine
just thought that was a nice little quality of life adjustment for, you know, what kind of familiars are available to people.
Just imagine a bad dragon running around with chicken legs. If you know, you know.
So that was cool.
Yeah, so
she's
basically-
a rare patron, if that matters to anybody.
Yeah, so the way this works, object familiars, is basically you have to spend one of the familiar abilities to give it legs, and they have a special entry for that. And then your familiar can be a cup that has legs, and they're
Cuppy.
familiar now. Cuppy.
Cuphead.
Yeah, exactly. Or, you know, if you wanted to animate like the Beast and the Bride, or what was that movie, the Disney movie called? Beauty and the Beast.
Ah, yeah.
If you wanted to have like a
Chip.
yeah, animate like the cup or the saucer and stuff like that, you could have that be your.
Yeah.
You have a broom running around being your familiar. Pretty cool. There's definitely a hole in fantasy that they needed to fill that I didn't even realize they needed until now. Then we have some new witch patrons, the Choir Politique, which is like a buff focus work together patron. Seems honestly hella mid, if you ask me.
Okay.
It's so the thing about new Pepsi is that their patron they have like an ability whenever you cast a focus spell or your hex, your familiar lets off a little ability basically, and those abilities are really fucking powerful. Okay, because often they come with no save, so they just happen. So if it says everyone around me is stupefied 1, let's say, they're just stupefied 1. There's no save. And a debuff with no save is a very powerful thing. Do you have to put your familiar in harm's way? Absolutely. Can you get your familiar back without much trouble? Also, absolutely. So, like, you will be without your spellbook and your familiar for a little bit of time, and your DM should absolutely capitalize on you not having your familiar. But then you get it back and everything's fine.
Okay.
So, if the familiar ability kind of sucks and the hex sucks, maybe skip. And in this case, the work together one is
Not so much?
It's not hitting, fam.
Okay.
It's not hitting. However, Paradox of Opposites.
I see that. I figured you'd go for
is
that.
Fucking good. Remember how I joked about Stupefied 1? Well, that's what it does.
Yeah.
No saved Stupefied 1 is pretty good, especially paired with the Divine Spell List that can go very far as an offensive caster. So Stupefied basically says you get -1 to will saves along with other int, charisma, or wisdom-based checks. So you cast your hex for 1 action. You automatically make your opponent Stupefied 1. They now have -1 to wisdom. Oh, look. I have 2 more actions left to cast my really cool wisdom save spell. My saver suck, what's the death one? Not power word kill. The Grim Reaper one that I used with Dragrid all the time.
God, that was so long ago. I don't recall.
It's like a shadowy unseen servant that kills them immediately. Anyway,
Sure.
It's an illusion and it's a will save, and if they fail, so
Phantasmal Killer.
Phantasmal Killer, thank you. So your goal there, stack as many debuffs as possible to make it go off, especially the critical failure. So really good. I really like the Paradox of Opposites. If I'm not mistaken, the hex for it is also really fucking good. It basically it does minor damage to an opponent and then gives fast healing to one of your friends, like fast healing 1. And fast healing, the rules for fast healing is very good. Very good. So in order to have like a cantrip that deals a little bit of damage and also does a little bit of healing to your friends, it's super good because now you can like.
It does, but it targets a fortitude save, so it's probably going to be a lot more useful in like metropolitan kind of adventures and less so in Kingmaker.
Yeah, that's a good point. But even on a failure, it still does damage. And if it does damage, it heals your friends, I believe.
Sure. Yeah.
The hex could actually define something different. It could say, let me just pull it up real quick. My phone loads.
Right.
Here we go. Trade death for life. If the target takes damage, yeah.
Right.
And it's a basic save. So even on a success, they still take damage. And if they take damage, you get fast healing 1. So most of the time,
it's
you're going to be
it's
healing.
Not nothing.
Yeah, you're probably going to be healing. But it's only 1d4 void damage. So basic fortitude save. It's not that big of a deal.
And at first level, that actually matters.
It does. And it's heightened 1. So like it just goes up by 1d4. And the fast healing goes up by 1 every level. So in my opinion, incredibly
that
useful and consistent cantrip.
I've come around on it. I just
Finally,
don't like things that target fortitude saves.
Yeah, totally. You've
Lots
got
of feel bad moments.
You've got yeah.
Continue.
So the Unseen Broker is the last of the mysteries, of the patrons. Which patrons? The normal common ones. Kind of weird, if I'm being honest. This is like clearly the patron of Archetypes, like the Beelzebub, I'm not trying to say his name directly, but skirt around it because he's a patron and not obviously like a divine familiar. He's not a god. We're not talking about the only Asmodeus.
Is this just a miscellaneous patron?
No, this is Asmodeus.
Okay.
The patron is Asmodeus. The guy's got fucking horns. It's the Unseen Broker. Like it screams Asmodeus. He's wearing black and red.
He screams. What's that fucking country with all the vampires in it?
Ustalov?
Yeah, it looks Ustalavian because it's got the whole like Count Strahd von Zarovich, Raven, black and red, and the ceremonial dagger.
I see the horns, the tiefling horns.
now,
That's
yeah.
what tells me. I don't know. Anyway, to me, when I think of Broker, I think of
It looks like
Asmodeus.
Professor Snape when you zoom in.
And it's okay.
Yep.
It's okay.
You don't sound satisfied.
So here's the thing. The cantrip that they get is really fucking convoluted.
Mhm.
I don't even have to bother the goblins with how convoluted. I won't read the paragraph. Just trust me. You make a deal with someone in the
It's
middle
so
of combat.
convoluted, it has a linguistic trait.
Yeah, you make a fucking deal with someone in the middle of battle, and there's multiple things that happen depending on whether or not they accept the deal.
This is a crossroads
break it,
demon.
and-
That's what this is.
Yeah, exactly. The familiar of enticing negotiation, however, is actually pretty good. Basically, when you cast a spell or whatever and you get your familiar ability, an opponent within 10 feet hears like gibbering,
Mhm.
talking in their ear, and they become flat-footed. So automatic flat-footed for a familiar,
I'll take it.
not bad, especially if you have a rogue in the party. But if you don't have someone who can really capitalize on flat-footed, off guard, pretty hella mid.
Old habits.
They die hard. All right, let's talk about the Baba Yaga.
Baba.
So the Baba Yaga is just powerful. It's a rare thing, which means it's just going to be stronger than common and uncommon things. It gives concealment. We talked about concealment earlier. This one gives concealment, and so does the next one. The Mosquito Witch also gives concealment.
Baba Yaga teaches you to be more like her.
Yes,
I love that
exactly.
line.
Yeah, it's amazing. Your familiar is always covered in a thin layer of snow, which it sheds as needed. When you cast or sustain a hex, you can cause clinging snow to fall in a 5-foot burst centered on a square of your familiar space. The snowfall remains until the start of your next turn, and the enemies enter these squares during that period are dazzled.
We like to keep a bit of the motherland with us.
Exactly. And dazzled is literally just everyone is concealed to you.
Mhm.
So Bob's your uncle, right?
Baba's your uncle.
Baba's your uncle.
Your aunt.
The spirit object is pretty fucking cool. The hex literally just animates an object and makes it a little minion that runs around and attacks shit.
Yep.
Which is pretty fucking cool. It's pretty cool.
Brooms.
It's spirit weapon, but regular items start attacking people.
Right.
Mosquito Witch, the familiar ability is pretty much the same, except instead of being offensive, it's defensive, which in my opinion is actually more powerful.
Yep.
Basically, when you cast a hex or sustain something or whatever, allies nearby gain concealment. That's it. So in my opinion, the Mosquito Witch is actually a lot more versatile because you can just target your own friends instead of having to put your familiar out into the open and have them, be open to attack. Biting Bites is the cantrip, the hex cantrip, and it's okay. It does
Buzzing bites.
Yeah, it does 1d4 piercing damage. And it does a condition, Sickened 1, which is good. Sickened is really good.
Yeah, especially at first level.
Unfortunately, it's only on a critical failure. And heightening it only increases the damage by 1d4. So, in my opinion, when a debuff only happens on a critical failure instead of a failure, it's not that reliable because it's very rare that things critically fail saves against you.
Sure.
And it's a fortitude save, so again, you're in your primal spell casting, which is nice instead of occult spell casting. But at the end of the day, its familiar ability is a little bit better than Baba Yaga, but I don't see its cantrip being better than Baba Yaga's
fortitude.
So they're kind of tied, in my opinion. Yeah. But yeah, so those are all the character options, and we're only 2 hours and 8 minutes into the podcast.
There's a quite delightful appendix. I don't know how many pages this thing goes on for. It's somewhere between 8 and 16. But it basically, it's a spreadsheet of all of the gods. Let's see.
Oh my God. No, Eric, there's archetypes we didn't even cover. What am I thinking? Jesus Christ. This book has
so much in this book. And we are going to do another video, our Goblin 5. We're probably going to find some stuff.
Yeah, I think we might.
But there's just a lot to talk about.
Let me just TLDR these really quickly.
God, it's going to be 3 hours.
I'm just going to TLDR them. We've got the Rivathun, which is the shaman, the old shaman. They split it up into 3 archetypes. There's a familiar and diplomacy focused archetype. There's a animal companion and minor spellcasting focused archetype, which I think is pretty rad. And then there's like a martial pseudo barbarian where they have like a barbarian style power up at the beginning of battle that gives them temp HP and bonuses to hit and stuff or whatever. And I think that's pretty neat, but it's all spirit damage focused. So it's kind of like, do you want to play spirit barbarian without any of the rage themes?
Right.
Go with this.
Yep. Super handy. I like that kind of flexibility.
And then we have probably the thing I think you'll enjoy the most. And my notes are failing me because they...
Oh, no.
Where'd it go? Where'd it go?
We're so close to the finish line.
I know. So anyway, the Investigator got a new class archetype as well. That basically made them... It has effectively made them an int-based thaumaturge.
Okay.
So it gets rid of... it replaces your basic mechanics that you use as a Investigator for minor spell casting and other cool occulty knowledge-based shenanigans. You get a reaction that gives you resistance to attacks because you have a little pendant around your neck. It's neat.
It's very Study in Emerald.
I don't know what that is.
It's kind of Neil Gaiman decided to do the H.P. Lovecraft meets Sherlock Holmes.
Okay, gotcha.
And kind of occulty Sherlock Holmes is kind of what you just described.
That's what it is. That's what it is. I appreciate that they're still trying to make Investigator a thing.
They're like, come on, guys, we're almost there.
I respect their effort. They get an A for effort.
Yeah.
Is it any good? I don't know. Why not just play a thaumaturge? But is it fun and neat, and does have a lot of flavor. Yes, they tied it directly into a major cult or organization that I've wanted to know more about, actually, since the last time I read
Order
about
of the Palatine Eye.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought it was really neat. And
Yeah, I think lore-wise, that was a fairly big deal in first edition, and then they kind of went away for a while. And I remember hearing somebody, I don't know if it was Jim Jacobs or one of the other guys, like they're just bringing it back. So I think they're going to have a more forward-facing role in the
and like the Order of the
lore.
Order of the Palatine Eye definitely inspired Goblin salvage rights, the Goblinati. You know what I mean? That's one of the things that was like, oh yeah, we could kind of base it off of this and really make that the center focus of the whole channel's
a little bit
IP in a lot of ways. So
check out the appendix too. The appendix is important and it's really easy to read.
Yeah, it's
and it's also at a glance information. It's alphabetical. All the big deity type figures in this book, broken down by deity, title, areas of concern, edicts, anathemas, domains. Next page. Divine font, divine sanctification, divine skill, divine attribute, cleric spells, alternate domains, and favored weapon. It's just at-a-glance information, and you can go down alphabetically and go, I need to find, Asmodeus, but I can't remember what the favored weapon is. It's super easy, and it's like 8 to 16 pages.
Yeah.
Everybody in this 320-page book just listed right there. I think there's also like a web document as well that Paizo put out for this. You could print it up and put it up on your wall next to your poster of Absalom.
It's pretty rad. So I think that's it. We pretty much went through the whole
Oh my
book.
God, is that it? Are we
That's
done?
it. That's
I've
it.
had to pee for like an hour and a quarter.
That's what happens when I serve you beer.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I
Well, thanks for hanging out with us,
Pull
goblins.
this under the table.
I appreciate you spending the time with us.
Yes, always.
We got through the book. It's pretty cool in my opinion.
Yep. There's nothing left to talk about.
There's nothing left to talk about. Thanks for joining us. As always,
Keep it weird.
keep it weird.